it's Sonara.
And it's Pauline.
Reading the County Press for Friday the 1st of February 2019. And first with the Society news. Tuesday 5th of February. The swimming group are swimming at the waterside pool in Ryde. The pool is closed to the public while the group swims. There are male and female volunteers to help you get in and out of the pool, as well as lifeguards to ensure your safety. To join the swimming group, please call the site for Wight first to notify us of your swimming ability. You need to register with the office at Millbrook House first to be able to swim with the group. On Wednesday the 6th of February, the weekly coffee morning will be held at Millbrook House this week from 10:30 a.m. There will also be our low vision drop-in between 10 a.m. and 12 noon, a weekly event to allow you to view and try the low vision equipment we have at the Society without the need for an appointment. The Wednesday social group will be meeting on Wednesday at 2 p.m. in Millbrook House. The entertainment this week will be a talk by the Isle of Wight Ambulance Service. The group lasts approximately 45 minutes, which is then followed by tea or coffee and cake. If you're not already a member of the Wednesday social group and would like to attend, then please call Laura Jasper on 522205 to register your interest. On Thursday, the 7th February, the Thursday social group are meeting at Millbrook House. The group meets from 10:30 a.m. till 2 p.m. You can knit or just have a chat. Then later in the afternoon, volunteers come in and read to the group from different topics.
Any other news? There will be a quiz held in aid of the Society at the Waverley Pub in Carisbrooke on Thursday the 7th of February. The quiz starts at 7:30 p.m. Teams of 4 at £3 per head. Food is not included but may be ordered before the quiz. Please pre-book tables by calling the Waverley directly on 522338. This week's In Touch, RNIB closure in Bristol. Reporter Tom Walker finds out why the closure of the RNIB Centre in Bristol has locals up in arms. Colin Whitbourne, RNIB's head of network operations in the South, tells us the thinking behind the decision, and the writer Mandy Redvers Rowe on the very personal story at the heart of her radio drama Blind School, which features a cameo performance by none other than Peter Wight. The play, co-written with Sarah MacDonald Hughes, will air on Radio 4 on February the 5th and tells the story of Nina, who struggles in her early days at Charles Worthy School. The presenter is Peter Wight, producer Lee Kumutat, reporter Tom Walker. And the February newsletter will follow the county press this week.
And on to the headlines in the county press for 1st of February 2019. There are two headlines: Sudden Death Shock and Engineers Meet Old Friend After 50 Years. Sudden Death Shock. Beautiful family man dies after pains in stomach. Just days after spending Christmas with his fiancée, happily enjoying the festivities with no suggestion that he was seriously ill, Matthew Martin suffered a sudden cardiac arrest and died. The beautiful family man was admitted to hospital with unexplained stomach pains, where he fell into a coma and died in the arms of fiancée Stephanie Hankin. He was just 51. Stephanie called an ambulance on the evening of Christmas Day, concerned that Matthew was unwell. His only symptom was a swollen stomach, which they put down to something he had eaten. Paramedics attended their home at Sandown Road Lake and checked Matthew's heart rate and blood pressure, but could not find anything wrong. Stephanie, who took Matthew to Sandown Medical Centre 2 days later, said Matthew had enjoyed his Christmas dinner and the festivities and was laughing on the phone with the family. The doctor who examined Matthew called an ambulance and he was admitted to St Mary's Hospital. He was talking and still had his brilliant sense of humour. At 2:30 a.m. the following morning, Matthew suffered a cardiac arrest caused by internal bleeding. It was so sudden. Only a few hours before we'd been doing a crossword together, and he told me how much he loved me, said freelance writer Stephanie, 37. The intensive care staff were amazing, but sadly he went into a coma. He passed away peacefully in my arms at 6:25 p.m. on December the 30th. I'm absolutely heartbroken and I still can't believe it. It just seems unfair. Stephanie said words could not describe the pain of losing such a beautiful, talented and funny man. She described Matthew as her soulmate and said he had so much to give to the world. The couple met at a charity called NACRO, which helps disadvantaged children. Stephanie said Matthew was a construction tutor and the children really looked up to him. It was Matthew's empathy that made me fall in love with him, and he was incredibly romantic. He proposed on Christmas Eve 2014, and we celebrated with a barbecue on the beach. Originally from freshwater, Matthew spent much of his youth on the island. He and Stephanie moved to Lake 3 years ago. We were extremely happy here. We had many fond memories and special places, she said. Matthew was well loved in the community. He was a great listener and would help anyone in need. Adored by his family and friends, no one will ever be able to fill the place of such a wonderful man.
An engineer who worked on the only British rocket to launch a satellite into orbit described seeing it again as meeting an old friend as it went on display after almost 50 years languishing in the Australian outback. The Black Arrow programme completed 4 rockets between 1969 and 1971, with the third flight marking the first and only successful UK-led orbital launch. A 6-metre section of the projectile crash-landed in South Australia, and it remained there for 48 years. Derrick Mack was among those in attendance as the rocket was unveiled in Midlothian last Friday, following a 10,000-mile journey back to the UK. The 86-year-old from Colwell was a senior trial engineer on the rocket, developed and tested on the Isle of Wight. He said, "Working on the scheme was very interesting, the best time I've ever had in my life as an engineer. It was unique, and in those days it was very advanced. We tended to get a bit of a reputation, like an astronaut might get today. I have seen it on photographs. It was interesting to look over it to see the actual detail of the damage and the various things that survived. But really, it was like meeting an old friend, because the last time I saw it, it was as it lifted off the launcher to take Prospero, the satellite, up to orbit." Mike Kellaway had been a site inspector during the programme's development. The 75-year-old from Knighton said, "It was good fun. It was always up against the clock. I've spent a night with this thing. To see it now, when I can think of all the people I knew who worked on this, close friends, colleagues, and a lot of them are no longer with us. To be here now and see it, I never expected to see it again." Speeches were made by representatives of the UK Space Agency, the Royal Air Force and the London Science Museum. The rocket, to which is being exhibited in a storage facility in Penicuik, was returned to the UK by Edinburgh space company Skyrora to be used for educational purposes. Skyrora director Daniel Smith said, "With the UK government's aim to make us a launch nation again, it seemed like the perfect time to bring back Black Arrow."
Parents' anger after boy 9 has knife at school. Fears have been raised for the safety of children at an Isle of Wight primary school after a 9-year-old was found with a knife. The boy took the penknife into Binstead Primary School and showed it to other children. It's understood he opened an electrical box and cut the wires inside, promoting other children to tell a teacher. A school spokesperson said, "A pupil recently brought a small penknife into school, and upon its discovery the matter was dealt with swiftly, appropriately, and proportionately in line with the school behaviour policy and advice from the local authority. There was no harm to anyone arising out of the matter. We have reassured the special class in question. The school continues to be a safe environment." However, it is understood that a number of parents kept their children home as they were concerned for their safety. One parent of a 10-year-old, who asked not to be named, said, "All I have asked for is reassurance my child will be safe, and my school has not provided that reassurance. The school needs to take action. What's the plan to counsel the children on the dangers of carrying knives and weapons? To stop this happening again. They could invite a local police officer to speak at an assembly, for example. I've raised these concerns with the head, as have other parents, but the response has been deafening. I've been totally fobbed off. They're trying to sweep this under the carpet." The matter has now been referred to the Board of Governors. Binstead Primary School has a good Ofsted rating. Following a short inspection last year, inspectors said, "Safeguarding is effective. Keeping pupils safe from harm is at the forefront of everyone's work."
An attempted break-in resulted in a crowbar-wielding man being apprehended by staff at a Newport garage. Price's garage staff were alerted by shock sensors fitted to doors of their accident repair reception office last Monday at around 9:50 p.m. Within 8 minutes, staff attended to secure the premises and found signs of attempted forced entry to a reception building. A Price's garage spokesman said, "We saw someone lurking at the front of the premises, so a member of staff approached this individual and noticed he had a crowbar in his hands. He was expecting the crowbar to be used and managed to put the person on the floor. He was then restrained on the floor until the police arrived." The spokesman added, "The police have been outstanding. I'd also like to highlight to other businesses that having shock sensors fitted on your doors and windows is a massive must. We've also installed a comprehensive colour CCTV system, as we've noticed a spike in attempts since Asda was built. I'm not blaming Asda, but at any time of the day or night there are people walking up and down an unmade road." Kevin Greenwood, 39, of Godric Road, Newport, was arrested at the scene and appeared at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court last Wednesday. He was sentenced to 12 weeks in prison, suspended for 12 months and ordered to pay £1,000 in compensation.
Mum's fear over son's fight for life. Teenager Cameron Shirley, who almost died after he was punched in the head with such force that he suffered brain damage, has taken a turn for the worse. Cameron, 17, who remains in intensive care following the assault in December, was placed in a medically induced coma last Friday after his airways collapsed. He remains on life support. Mum Elisa Shirley, 40, who runs the Victoria Lodge Hotel, Shanklin, said, "My world has crashed for a second time. He's so weak. I fear I'm going to lose him." She and other mums have launched the Kams Army campaign to raise awareness about the devastating impact fighting can have. That's our message at Kams Army. Take 5 seconds. Don't throw that punch. Turn and walk away, she said. I don't want to see young lads throwing their lives away over a pointless argument. Island filmmaker Dan Crouch is making a short film to support the campaign, highlighting the impact of teen violence. He has appealed for those with filmmaking experience and young actors to get in touch. For details, visit the Kams Army Facebook page. Elisa's friends have rallied round to raise money for her travel, accommodation and childcare costs so that she can continue to visit Cameron every day. Donations can be made at www.gofundme.com com/Kams Army.
An Island composites firm has been placed into administration with the loss of almost 20 jobs. Solent Composite Systems, SCS, based at Broadfields Park, Cowes, called in the administrators last Thursday following a shareholders' meeting. Business recovery firm Portland said it was searching for a buyer for the firm, whose customer base extends to China, India and Brazil, and where clients include BP, Harsco and Total. SCS Managing Director Matthew Chalk said the decision was taken to protect creditors and claimed the company, founded in 2004, could be revived once the administration process had been completed. He said the company, which designs and manufactures blast protection products for the oil and gas industry, had good prospects in terms of future orders, but did not have the money to run the business. It's a cash flow thing, but we're looking for investors and we hope to secure the assets with a view to restarting the business and re-employing staff, said Mr Chalk. We don't want to lose skilled Isle of Wight jobs. We hope to have a clear way forward to restart the business by February or March. He said bosses had already approached potential investors, including private equity firms and industry partners. Mr Chalk said SCS had delivered on all its contracts and met all its obligations with regard to current clients, but admitted staff had not been paid since November. They will now have to claim their unpaid wages and any redundancy pay through the administration process, with no guarantee they would be paid. One member of staff, who wished to remain anonymous, said the administrators should have been called in earlier and claimed the company had been in difficulty for some time due to a lack of orders coming in. However, Mr Chalk said staff had been understanding and he believed the majority would want to work for the company again in the future. Clearly, they are upset at losing their jobs. It's not fair people haven't been paid over Christmas, including me, but everyone has been supportive and understands the situation, he said. We've already received expressions of interest as a result of the marketing carried out and are hopeful a sale will be able to be achieved, which would result in a return to the creditors of the company.
Man stole £19,000 from elderly woman. A Newport man has been jailed after he stole £19,000 from an elderly woman in a nursing home. Stephen Horsey, 45, of Fairley Road, Newport, admitted one count of theft at the Isle of Wight Crown Court earlier this week. The court heard that Horsey was given power of attorney over his father's second cousin's 3 bank accounts. She was said to be vulnerable and physically unable to look after her own estate. Russell Pine, prosecuting, told the court Horsey took between £250 and £600 on a weekly basis from the now deceased woman's account over a 2.5-year period. Horsey made a further 2 withdrawals after her death and failed to pay off on an outstanding debt of £13,000 to the nursing home. He was caught after he tried to obtain a copy of the deceased's will, and solicitors were alerted to the debt. Mr. Pine explained that Horsey's father had previously held power of attorney for the victim, paid her nursing home fees, and acted responsibly with her accounts until his death. After his arrest, Horsey made admissions to the thefts and told police, "I may have screwed up." He said he'd been reluctant to take on the responsibility. Representing Horsey, Barry Arnett said, "This is a gross breach of trust. The defendant recognises that." Mr. Arnett said an early guilty plea and the fact that he had managed to pay the woman's nursing home fees of £3,000 per month for at least 2 years should stand in his favour. He added, "He has been living a lifestyle beyond his means and he has no idea where the money has gone to." Recorder Marcus Pilger-Storfer sentenced Horsey to 16 months in prison.
Plans to provide affordable housing on former school land at Gunville will be opposed tooth and nail by the ward councillor. Councillor Chris Whitehouse, Conservative MP of the Isle of Wight Council for Newport West, has spoken out about the new development at Taylor Road, primarily because of the implications of increased traffic in the area. A public consultation meeting took place last week to gather views on the development, which is on land next to Carisbrooke College. No planning application has been lodged, but the developer, Sovereign Housing, plans to submit it in March. Isle of Wight MP Bob Seeley helped get the green light from the Department of Education to release the redundant land for housing, saying it was important to make sure the island provided homes for people using brownfield, not greenfield land. Councillor Whitehouse has opposed the scheme. He said, "The developers are either deaf or daft or possibly both, and I will oppose their plans tooth and nail. They have completely ignored the fact I met them several years ago to explain any plan for a new road opening to Purdy Road just off Wellington Road would be strongly opposed by residents as the traffic in the area is a nightmare. That corner is an absolute death trap waiting to spring. I've been banging my head on a brick wall, so now I will fight this tooth and nail, and I know the residents of Newport West will rally behind me." He also complained he was only invited to the consultation meeting at the last minute, stating, "Whether failing to invite me was deliberate or accidental, it was an inept failure for which I have demanded an apology and a meeting with their regional manager." Liz Evans, project manager at Sovereign, said, "We've been working closely with the Isle of Wight Council Property Services team on this proposed development, which will see us purchase council-owned land and transform it into much-needed affordable properties, providing a mix of 2 and 3 bed homes to local people." Around 50 people came to our recent public consultation, which felt really positive. We discussed questions such as surface water runoff, road access and boundaries between properties. We'll take these comments on board and include them in our planning application. A more detailed consultation will be held later this year as part of the planning process. We welcome the opportunity to hear everyone's views on the site.
John aims to make dreams come true. A father of 4 young girls is tackling Mount Kilimanjaro to make other children's dreams come true. John Mackay, 30, who is player-manager of Cowes Sports Football Club, is taking on the challenge in September 2020, but is starting his fundraising in earnest. He's aiming to raise at least £4,500 for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which arranges experiences or wishes for critically ill children. He explained, "I had been looking for a challenge for a while, and I thought it was time to take the plunge, but I've never done anything like this before. I play football for Cowes and I stay relatively in shape, but I'll start training properly for the 6 to 9 months leading up to the climb. I have young children myself and know if something serious ever happened to one of them, I would want to make their dreams come true, which is why I chose this charity. The thought that I could help a child fulfill a dream is a huge motivation." Cheering him on from their Northwood home will be wife Jo and daughters Tallulah, 9, Norabella, 6, Bo, 3, and Murphy, 18 months. John, a quality manager at St Mary's Hospital, is planning a few fundraising events this year, including a charity gala and auction at Gurnard Pines.
Patients referred to St Mary's Hospital for an MRI scan can now be looked at much sooner. A mobile MRI scanner, which uses strong magnetic fields and radio waves to produce detailed images of the inside of the body, is working alongside the existing scanner to ensure patients are not waiting any longer than 6 weeks for non-urgent referrals and no more than 2 weeks for urgent scans. The need for an additional MRI scanner on the island is due to the large increase in the number of patients being referred for MRI scans, many of which are complex and urgent. The MRI team carries out on average 900 examinations each month. Alistair Day, Superintendent Radiographer, said, "For a number of months now we've been scanning 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, plus weekends, to ensure we continue to provide a good service. Having to wait any length of time for a scan can be unsettling and cause anxiety for patients, so we're really pleased to be reducing the time that patients are having to wait."
Isle of Wight schools still underperforming. 80% of Island State Secondary School students attend a school that is below or well below the national average. Just one Isle of Wight school was found to be performing on par with the national average, Cowes Enterprise College. For students aged 16 to 18, 5 out of 7 schools were found to be working at the national average, with Christ the King College and Ryde Academy falling below. Overall, 40% of Island students attend an underperforming school. Schools were scored on Progress 8, which shows how much progress pupils made between Key Stage 2 and 4 compared to pupils across England who got similar results at the end of Key Stage 2. Medina College and Carisbrooke College were both found to be well below average in the secondary school league tables. Medina College had a score of minus 0.56 and Carisbrooke minus 0.84. National average is scored at 0. Carisbrooke College executive head teacher Matthew Berman said, "At the moment, it's clear the results are not good enough. Over the course of the next year, we are going to improve quite rapidly. We are going to be great. We are going to be an amazing school." Mr. Parr Berman said part of the problem was with the subjects chosen to score children, which followed a more grammar school curriculum. Results are based on English, maths, and other subjects including sciences, history, geography, and languages. Mr. Parr Berman said students were encouraged to pick subjects the school felt were right for the children. There is a dilemma between what we want for our students and what we know will do well in the league tables. Isle of Wight Council Cabinet Member for Education, Councillor Paul Brading, said he was concerned but fully expected results to have improved by next year. He said, "Each school is going on its own individual journey. We have good new head teachers in place at all the secondary schools on the island. The main thing is GCSE results on the island will be better next year." He said although the results for Sandown Bay Academy were not included in the government statistics, the school performed on par with Medina College. He said, "It's indicative of the mess left by AET, but the team has gone in and is really working to turn things around." Rachel Kitley, head of Cowes Enterprise College, the Isle of Wight's highest performing school, said, "We are very proud of what we, students, staff and parents, have all achieved over the last few years with the support of Ormiston Academy's Trust."
The former Chief Fire Officer for the Isle of Wight, Steve Apter, has been appointed the new Deputy Chief Fire Officer of Hampshire Fire and Rescue Service and the Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service. Mr Apter, 52, left his post on the island 2 years ago to take up a job with London Fire Brigade as its Deputy Commissioner. While there, he was in command at incidents including the Westminster Bridge terror attack and the aftermath of the Grenfell Tower disaster. And the Isle of Wight Council have approved plans to create a combined fire authority for the Isle of Wight, Hampshire, Portsmouth and Southampton. The plans will now go to the Secretary of State for approval. Combining the authority will cost £700,000 to be taken from the transformation budget. Cabinet Member for Public Protection, Councillor Tig Outlaw, said the council was also applying for funding from the Home Office.
New owner makes changes at hotel. The new owner of a prestigious West Wight hotel has revealed how excited he is about the project. Entrepreneur Howard Spooner signed a 3-year lease last Monday with a right to buy to take over the George Hotel, Yarmouth, from Dame Diane Thompson, the former chief executive of the National Lottery. The hotel opened its doors last Saturday, following a couple of weeks of redecoration with more changes to come. Mr. Spooner was a partner with Guy Pelly, a childhood friend of Princes William and Harry, and had nightclubs in Chelsea, Fulham, Clapham and Hammersmith, and has several businesses on the mainland. He said, "I'm really excited. With any of these things, there's a lot to do when you start. We've redecorated all the public spaces with the entrance hall, lighting, toilets, bars and furniture completely revamped. Shortly, the restaurant to the left, as you enter the hotel, will become a lounge with a private dining area to seat 50, which will be a cut above a gastropub. We will also be introducing a proper bar into the conservatory. There will be a cocktail bar with a mixologist bartender, as well as a gin bar and huge selection of wines. We will be bringing in more support for our head chef, and I've had a big part with the menus, which will be going down the brasserie route, a bit like the Ivy." Dame Diane, who has owned the 17-bedroom hotel for nearly 5 years and spent £1.5 million on refurbishing it, said, "This is a marriage made in heaven. I've done the infrastructure, including the refurbishment of the bedrooms, new boilers and the joists, which needed to be done. Howard can now move it on and make it a fun place and a great venue for all customers."
Calling all garden-loving islanders, a new art and garden fair heads to Northwood House this Easter. The Isle of Wight Spring Art and Garden Fair will bring together a range of local garden and outdoor exhibitions and a showcase of island artists for a 2-day green extravaganza. Craft and local food producers will also be in attendance, and island businesses and organisations have been invited to display their work. General Manager of Northwood House, Darren Cool, said, "We are delighted to be hosting this great new spring event, which should attract lots of people to the venue over the 2 days. The island has been crying out for an event like this for quite a few years and is perfect for our gardening mad population." The event will run on Friday, April the 19th and Saturday, April the 20th. That's Good Friday and Easter Saturday. And all proceeds will go to the Northwood House Charitable Trust to help with ongoing restoration of the Grade 2 listed building.
Man grew cannabis. The burnt remains of growing cannabis plants were discovered during a police investigation into a fire at a block of Newport Flats, a court heard. Officers quizzed resident Stephen St. John, 40, following the discovery, which also included lights and other equipment associated with producing the drug. He initially told police the equipment was to do with his photography work, but later admitted he had grown the drug to help with pain relief for another man who he had sublet a bedroom to. Anne Smout, prosecuting, said there was no suggestion St. John had been involved with the fire in September 2016. She added the tenant had categorically denied he had conversations with St. John about using the cannabis. She said, "This is quite an old offence. It is very unusual." St. John, of previously good character, admitted producing a controlled drug. For St. John, Barry Arnett said his client, who now lives in Highland Road, Southsea, had gained a master's degree in photography. He said, clearly he did not know what he was doing. St. John was fined £40 and told to pay a £30 surcharge and £40 costs.
More drug drivers were caught on the Isle of Wight over Christmas than almost anywhere else in the south. A total of 666 drivers were arrested across Hampshire, the Isle of Wight and Thames Valley as part of Operation Holly, the Christmas drink and drug driving campaign. On the island, 11 people were arrested for drink driving and 9 for drug driving between December the 1st and January the 1st. There were fewer arrests than last year when 17 people were caught drink driving and 12 drug driving. Nevertheless, there were more drug driving arrests on the island than anywhere else. In the south, only Southampton fared worst with 13 arrests.
Derrick spreads the island message. Derrick Sandy, the Isle of Wight's famed red guy artist, has been spotted on the Britain's Got Talent Instagram account. The Welcome to the Isle of Wight singer was pictured having his microphone attached during the audition stages of ITV's talent show, which rewards the winners with a chance to perform at the Royal Variety Show. Geordie hosts of the show, Ant McPartin and Declan Donnelly, were also featured on the account holding up I Love Wight t-shirts. I love Wight t-shirts. Derrick Sandy spoke to the county press but couldn't confirm any details about the show. When asked if he'd made it through the auditions, he replied, "I don't know about that."
Plans to open a new digital hub on the island have been revealed by Isle of Wight Council leader Dave Stewart. Councillor Stewart said the hub would inspire a generation capable of transforming the island into a world-class destination for digital innovation. The move is a joint venture with the council and digital experts who work with the other local authorities in the UK. Councillor Stewart said, "We're promoting digital technology as one of our key priorities as it is now impacting on all walks of life. To have our own digital hub operating on the island will give us opportunities to introduce and develop skills and career paths, which will be an excellent start to our longer-term ambitions." Alex Cole, Chief Innovation Officer at Tin Smart Social Limited, will be among the experts working with the council to create the hub. Mr. Cole said, "The professional skills and experience I am able to bring to the island will mean we can increase the quality and volume of industry-led digital training opportunities for local people, with access potentially extending across the Solent. A pipeline of diverse homegrown talent will enable learners to achieve digital credentials and showcase their talents for in-demand job opportunities in the future." Details about the hub for the new hub are being finalised, but it is hoped it will be open in the next few months.
How did builder die on beach? Mystery surrounds the death of a man whose body was found on rocks at Totland Beach. An inquest heard that Costache Pascal, a Romanian builder, was staying with a friend on the Isle of Wight and helping to renovate a house. Last Wednesday, the inquest heard that Mr. Pascal had been drinking heavily the night before his body was discovered near Fort Warden Road on October 1st. A post-mortem revealed that Mr. Pascal, 47, was 3 times the legal drink drive limit when he died. His friend, Valentin Predut, had spent the evening with him drinking in local pubs. Mr. Predut said Mr. Pascal had consumed a bottle of red wine, 2 cognacs, 2 beers, and 4 ciders. He said they parted at 8 p.m, at which point he returned home and Mr. Pascal stayed out drinking. Mr. Predut said, "We parted as friends. He was happy." When Mr. Pascal failed to return home by the following morning, Mr. Predut alerted the owner of the house they had been working on, Louis Mircescu, who went out looking for him. Mr. Mircescu found Mr. Pascal's body on the beach, face down in the water. Mr. Pascal had cuts and bruises to his face, but Isle of Wight coroner Caroline Sommeray said they had probably been caused by a fall, and there was no evidence he'd been involved in a confrontation of any kind. He had also suffered internal injuries. The cause of death was internal bleeding caused by trauma to the abdomen. Mrs. Sommeray said he did not know the area and he drank a considerable amount of alcohol. It's unclear to me how he came to be in the position he was in on the rocks. I can't speak of what happened. He was trapped in the rocks on the shoreline and sustained major injuries. She concluded that Mr. Pascal had died of misadventure.
People are being encouraged to take part in the 2019 GP Patient Survey if a request drops through their letterbox. More than 2 million people across the country are being sent a survey, and the NHS is encouraging every invitee to share their experience of using services at their GP practice. The The survey provides detailed information about the ways people interact with primary care staff and how good that experience is. It plays a key role in understanding what's working and what needs to improve. It also helps understand the impact of recent changes, such as extended opening hours and other initiatives, which were carried out in response to what patients said in previous surveys. They can complete it by post or online until the end of March, and there is a range of options to make it more inclusive for those who need support to take part.
Warning over tax scam. Scammers purporting to be from HM Revenue and Customs have contacted people on the Isle of Wight, threatening people with arrest, bailiffs and even deportation unless they hand over money. Action Fraud has warned people to be on their guard following an increasing number of malicious calls, voicemails, text messages or emails to islanders. The fraudsters falsely claim their victims have not paid their tax, leaving them at risk of prosecution. Victims are told they can avoid arrest and repossession by transferring money via their bank or iTunes gift cards. Often the period for which the tax is allegedly due is distant enough to guarantee the victim will have little, if any, paperwork or ability to verify the claims. Once the money is paid, the suspects sever all contact. Isle of Wight Fair Trading Officer Sally Ash said, "It is vital that the public exercise caution when receiving messages or telephone calls of this nature. Always question unsolicited requests for your personal or financial information. Just because someone knows your basic details, such as your name and contact details, it doesn't mean they are genuine. Instead, contact the company directly using trusted methods such as a known email address or phone number. Listen to your instincts. If something feels wrong, then it is usually right to question it. No genuine organisation will ask you to pay taxes, bills or fees using iTunes gift cards or any other type of voucher. Don't be rushed or pressured into making a decision. Under no circumstances would a genuine bank or some other trusted organisation force you to make a financial transaction on the spot. Report phishing attempts. If you receive a call, text or email of this nature and have not lost money, report this as a phishing attempt to Action Fraud.
A gastronomic voyage was prepared by the landlord of a West Wight pub, which celebrated the 6th hosting of its RMS Titanic evening on Saturday. More than 50 people in formal dress enjoyed a 10-course meal at the Wheatsheaf Yarmouth. Landlords Sean and Catherine Rayner have put on the event since 2014. Originally, the food was taken from a combination of the different menus, which was served to the first class, second class and third class passengers. Catherine said the menu has changed over the years, so this year Sean decided to do his own 10-course meal, which he thought would go down well on the night. Among the courses we had were fillet of stone bass, pan-fried crumbled lamb, chicken Maryland and smoked salmon, prawn and deal pâté. It was absolutely fantastic. Guests were also entertained with a recording of the music from the Wight Star Orchestra, who were performing on the Titanic as it was sinking, and the orchestra is still going today. This year they also had a Titanic quiz.
Record income for Tree Festival. The Brystone Christmas Tree Festival raised a record total of nearly £12,000 for charities. Around 220 decorated trees were involved in the 22nd festival, where they were displayed in various venues in Brystone, as well as Motterstone Church and Isle of Wight Pearl. Organiser Chris Goodman said, "We're quite proud of what we've done again this year, with so many people, young and old, making such a huge effort to make it a success. After emptying the donation boxes, we raised £11,727 for a wonderful range of charities to take our total over the last 22 years to £131,924.49. We would just like to thank the exhibitors, sponsors, and the community of volunteers who put in so much to make the event another wonderful occasion.
And taxi fares on the Isle of Wight will increase by 10p per mile, the first price hike in 6 years. The plans to change the cost of a taxi taken between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. were agreed by the Isle of Wight Council Licensing Committee on Monday. The initial cost of flagging down a taxi will also rise by 50p. Taxi drivers cited increased running cost as a reason for the hike. And let's finish on a note. Frogs and other creatures are traditionally thought to find their mates on Valentine's Day, so don't spring clean your pond.
And that's all we have time for. So it's goodbye from Sonara.
And goodbye from Pauline.
Good morning, this is Chris
and Brian
reading the second part of the Talking News. Small trader is forgotten, from Cliff Bennett of Yarmouth. The Isle of Wight Council has proudly announced it is investing a few thousand to reinvent the centre of Newport. This would consist of a few pretty signs, a bit of fancy pavement and more pedestrianisation, so it becomes a sort of bijou meeting point for islanders and visitors. They proudly claim only 11% of shops are empty in Newport, neglecting, of course, to mention of premises that are open 70% are charity shops, coffee shops, barbers, fast food outlets, takeaways and nail bars. The actual number of trading retail outlets is less than 20%, and most of those are a part of mainland chains. So far this term, to help the small retailer, they have massively hiked business rates and are going to introduce paid parking in the few remaining free parking areas, which will further serve to drive the motorists away. There are also plans for another supermarket on the site of new football ground, one at Westridge and 3 more at sites still to be decided. In the past 20 years, any supermarket chain that has been prepared to hand over a fistful of money and fund a local amenity has been given carte blanche to do anything it wants. Tesco has doubled the size of its store, Sainsbury's likewise, and Morrison's at Lake is in the build stage to do the same. Pleading poverty, successive island councils have sold the island's soul, but the final nail in the coffin was allowing Asda to come, even though the council kept them waiting for 2 years and offered a take-it-or-leave-it knock-down price. It was accepted. Asda was always going to be a supermarket too far. With their aggressive marketing style, they are not prepared to coexist. They want it all. The others have been forced to respond in all marketing areas or fall behind on trading. One could, of course, say this is good news for the customer, but bad news for the small trader. But who cares about them? Apparently, nobody. There's an editor's footnote. Newport and Carisbrooke Parish Council increased its precept to pay for improvements to the town. Other funding for the Shaping Newport project is as yet unknown.
Dad had polio, from Mrs. Allen of Newport. Reading Brian Greening's article about the outbreak of polio on the Isle of Wight in the 1950s, County Press weekend 25th of January 2019, has brought back memories of my own childhood during this time, remembering the half-day school attendance and the importance of cleanliness. In October 1949, the year prior to the outbreak, I was 9, with a younger brother and sister, and my late father was taken seriously ill. After many tests and home visits by our doctor, he was diagnosed with infantile paralysis. He was just 38. His work on building sites brought him into contact with dirty drains, and this was blamed for his condition. He was transferred to the isolation hospital at Fairlea, as mentioned by Mr. Greening, where he remained for 6 to 8 weeks because he had lost the use of both legs. There was only one other lady patient on the ward who had succumbed to the virus. Sadly, she was encased in an iron lung. Thankfully, Dad escaped this ghastly contraption, much to my mother's relief. When he eventually returned home, he was determined to walk again, and with the help of a wonderful masseur, Arthur Me, and many months of treatment, he regained partial use in his legs and slowly began to walk again, albeit with a very noticeable limp. We were all so thankful to have Dad back with us again. He went on to become a very keen bowler and lived until he was 85. Having lived with someone close who had suffered the effects of this dreadful illness, it is comforting to know that polio has almost been eradicated.
I won the lottery from Newman Smith Cows. Earlier this week, I had to attend St Mary's Hospital for a blood test. After the usual scenic tour searching for a parking place, I entered the unit to find a third world scene. A waiting room and corridor filled to capacity. Turning to leave, the obvious and inevitable thought came to mind of why are satellite blood clinics not dispersed around the island? This would reduce pressure on St Mary's and provide more convenience for patients. However, on returning to the car park, that conjecture was quickly overtaken by the sight of a disconsolate queue of 30-odd people waiting to pay on leaving at the one machine in operation. This latest nationally based parking enterprise, over which the hospital has no real control, is symptomatic of public authorities, introducing systems which are convenient to the authorities but ignoring the end user. On a whim, I visited the blood unit at Ryde Wellbeing Clinic. I drove into a virtually empty, free from payment car park, walked into a silent and empty waiting area, which I understand was particularly unusual, and was immediately ushered into the unit and dispensed the sample. I had won the NHS lottery. My day was complete.
97% of scientists agree on this, from Stephen Cockett of Ventnor. The wealth of evidence proving the reality of man-made climate change is available at the fingertips of anyone who chooses to access it. A simple web search will tell you 97% of scientific papers conclude the climate is changing due to human activities, not the 50% suggested by Paul Dobson. To think otherwise is to believe in a wacky conspiracy theory which says a ragtag bunch of environmentalists have infiltrated every university, media organisation, corporate headquarters and government across the globe with a cunning plan to fit energy-saving light bulbs, insulate homes and promote public transport. The veracity of the argument climate change is man-made and dangerous is demonstrated by its acceptance by every government in the world. Those of us who are keen observers just wish governments would move faster to act on the facts which they already accept. It is true human respiration generates carbon dioxide, 7 million tonnes per day in fact. As a scientist, retired, Mr. Dobson should understand this is part of the short-term carbon cycle and therefore it is carbon neutral. In contrast, carbon in fossil fuels has been locked away for millions of years, and burning it leads to the increased levels of carbon dioxide, which scientists almost universally link to increased global temperatures. Finally, the claim increased carbon dioxide is beneficial due to the increased fertilization of plants may have some basis in fact, but it is an example of picking and choosing science based upon what you want to believe.
Grave situation from Julie Hutchison, Ventnor. I was heartbroken the county press published the letter by Paul Dobson. This was detrimental to the urgent message of climate change. Look at the website rebellion.earth and watch the video that Dr. Gail Bradbook features in. It presents climate science data, graphs and implications that occur as a result. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change recommended a window of opportunity of 12 years in October 2018. Climate change is accelerating faster than scientists have predicted, and this needs radical action now from many people. Climate change is born of capitalist greed and pollution. It has been ignored for too long, with not enough being done to limit its effects. CO2 emissions are still wildly increasing. 97% of scientists agree this is happening. Extinction Rebellion demands action is taken now by governments worldwide. Pollution is occurring on an unprecedented scale by large companies who are getting richer. It all links together. The media has a duty now to tell the absolute truth. And the editor's footnote, the county press publishes letters across a broad spectrum of opinion.
Tory Fantasyland from Julian Critchley, Isle of Wight Labour Party Chair, Ryde. It seems it's not just the Tories in Westminster who are currently living in a fantasy world, but our own local Tories too. I refer to the Isle of Wight Council leader Dave Stewart's column, County Press, 25th of January 2019. We have 500 children without their own homes on the island, thousands of families having to use food banks, hospital services being cut from St Mary's and sick people forced to travel to the mainland, cuts to services for vulnerable children and adults on the island, reductions in available police officers on the island, handing our fire service to Hampshire, the floating bridge, big rises in council tax, paying more tax for worse services, and all this has been done while pursuing an undemocratic setup at County Hall to prevent adequate scrutiny of decisions. This weird attempt to blow their own trumpet will go down very badly with islanders on the receiving end of Tory incompetence and cruelty.
There's plenty for kids to do, from Susan Horton of Lake. Further to the letter from a reader in Lake concerning the alleged lack of activities on offer to children and young people in the area, this was in the county press on the 1st of January 2019. With very little effort, I have found the following within the Lake, Sandown and Shanklin area, most of which would be within walking distance of their homes, with apologies to any group I have unknowingly admitted. Girl guiding, scouting, army cadets, youth club, theatre, drama, singing groups, a variety of dance lessons, musical instrument tuition, bell ringing, church-based activities, library and computer clubs. Football, rugby, golf, pitch and putt, cricket, sailing and other sea-based activities, public footpaths and cycle track. Snooker, pool, darts, swimming, badminton, squash, table tennis, cycling, exercise equipment, gymnasium, trampolining, after-school clubs. Further afield on the island, sea cadets, horse riding, dog training, bird hide, nature conservation, art group, lessons, tennis, bowling, martial arts, speedway, paragliding, karting, shooting, archery, cinema and steam railway. Many organisations would welcome young volunteers to assist them. While I appreciate that some of the above are expensive, others are not, and some weekend work is available, particularly in the summer. One would be hard-pressed to find so many activities for the young to take part in on the mainland within such a small area. There will always be some youngsters who are not joiners and prefer to pursue their own interests and studies privately. There is no excuse for others to be vandalising property, committing arson and causing havoc on our streets, and those who do so should be dealt with severely by police and their parents.
Enjoy outdoors from Frankie Goodall of Newport. Reference Alan Marriott's column, County Press Weekender, 18th of January 2019. I was lucky enough to have inspirational teachers who involved me in sports and outdoor activities, which I enjoyed during an academic career and still do in my 80s despite being severely disabled. I would like to think some of this rubbed off on the young people I taught, who make me proud today. Yes, young people should have fun, but not on the run, having caused strife, ruined someone's life just being a kid. We have a wonderful island. It costs nothing to enjoy the outdoors and socialise with friends.
And now looking back, 100 years ago, February the 1st, 1919. Island teachers were still battling for an increase in their salaries and a uniform scale throughout the Isle of Wight. Teachers called for the government to take over the payment of salaries due to the grave disparity and the feeling of unrest and dissatisfaction. It had been agreed in Ryde that a man's pay could rise by £60 from £150 to £210 and a woman's by £40 from £130 to £170, and things were now running more smoothly in that district. The freshwater community campaigned to their parish council to get a war memorial in the town. Chairman, Mr. J. Carpenter, agreed and said freshwater had been hit hard by the loss of many promising young men. He suggested a cottage hospital or a nursing home should be developed as a lasting memorial.
75 years ago, January the 29th, 1944. Two convicts of Camp Hill Prison, Thomas Appleby and Stanley Haycock, ran away when being marched back to the prison. Their liberty did not last long. Haycock was captured posing as a foreign seaman, while Appleby was found asleep in a military lorry parked in a camp. Both were taken to police stations and escorted back to prison. In the Greetings from West Africa broadcast, Mrs. Phillips of Newport heard a message from her husband, Sergeant Major Alfred Phillips. He said he was in the best of health. His 7-year-old son was the most thrilled member of the household to hear his dad on the wireless.
50 years ago, February the 1st, 1969. The Earl Mountbatten, governor of the island, visited the Isle of Wight. He paid a visit to the Royal Isle of Wight School of Nursing, where he met with members of the nursing staff. He also presented replacement medals of the Boer War to 84-year-old Mr. D. Smith and visited local exhibitions. An officer at Camp Hill Prison discovered a fire in the garden. 2 crews from Newport and 1 from Cowes attended the scene in the early hours of the morning. A shed and a number of mattresses and other prison staples were lost to the blaze. It was thought prisoners were not involved.
25 years ago, February the 4th, 1994, 2 island women were assured of 5-figure compensation payments for being sacked from the Royal Navy for getting pregnant. They both lost their jobs as wrens due to Ministry of Defence rules which banned women in the service from having children. But the rules broke the Sexual Discrimination Act, and the pair hoped to get between £30,000 and £75,000. Gale force winds of up to 60 miles an hour brought down trees, disrupted ferry services, and caused structural damage to a Shanklin hotel. Bricks crashed onto a bedroom at the Malton House Hotel when a gable end blew down. No one was hurt, but 1,400 residents across South Wight were left without electricity.
10 years ago, January the 23rd, 2009. An Isle of Wight police officer was commended for his bravery after he saved a child from a shed blaze. Sergeant Terry Clarkson was honoured by the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Chief Constable. He had been off duty when he spotted smoke coming from a garden shed in Ventnor, ran to the scene and pulled a young boy out. As the credit crunch bit, the Isle of Wight Council cut the cost of school meals. Prices were to be set at 2007 levels and frozen until 2010, while more island ingredients were set to be sourced to boost the economy and cut food miles. Meal prices lowered by 10p to £1.70.
White Memories. The Dangers of the Cement Mills. Carol Flux, project manager at Gift to Nature, tells the story of the Dodner cement mill and the perils that faced those who worked there. Thanks to a Heritage Lottery Fund grant, the Ireland 2000 Trust were able to uncover the hidden stories of the site. The River Medina was one of the main trade routes onto the island, and in the 18th century 2 tidal mills had been built on each side of the river. In 1791, the West Medina Mill at Dodner was sold to William Porter, a miller and mealman who sold pies in Newport. Unfortunately, this venture was not successful, and after a varied history of use as barracks and as storage space for local merchants, the site was sold to Charles Francis, a cement maker from London, in 1841. The River Medina proved to be an excellent source of the septaria stones from which Roman cement was made, as well as providing the tidal power of the old mill and easy access to the sea for delivery of the finished cement. In fact, when mixed with stones dredged from the river, the cement produced proved to be much harder than the normal Roman cement and was called Medina cement. It was highly regarded and won prizes at several exhibitions, but by the early 1850s, production had changed to a new, more improved type of cement called Portland cement.
Jobs around the site ranged from quarrymen who worked the chalk from Shide Chalk Pit to chemists, cement testers, mariners taking raw materials and finished cement on barges, to carpenters, coopers, sack repairers, and even a tally boy. Men loading the kilns worked stripped to the waist to combat the heat and drank a mixture of oatmeal in water to try and protect them against the noxious fumes. The fire clinker was drawn from the kilns whilst it was red hot, and it was back-breaking work with each kiln burning for days. The men were paid by results, so if a firing was unsuccessful, their wages were reduced. Cement production continued at the site until 1939, with production methods evolving and buildings and machinery being abandoned as new technology came along.
After the Second World War, production ceased, and the site became a supply and distribution centre before closing in the latter years of the century and being demolished to create new factory space. However, one corner of the site remained, and in 2017, Ireland 2000 Trust successfully gained an award from Heritage Lottery Fund to explore the structural remains and find out about the people who worked at the site. Working with a large and enthusiastic team of volunteers, the project led to some amazing discoveries that had previously been missed in earlier surveys of the site and have led to a new understanding of how production developed. The remains of both bottle and chamber kilns can be seen from the Newport to Cowes cycle track. Just as fascinating were some of the stories of life for the workers that the project's volunteers discovered.
An extremely well-researched book on the West Medina cement mills and its workers was published by Alan Dinnis in 2016, and the volunteers wanted to add to the information gathered by Alan because they felt that the stories of the lives of the ordinary local island workers were important ones that needed telling. Judged by modern standards, the site was a bit of a health and safety nightmare, and there were a number of serious incidents recorded in the Isle of Wight County Press and other local media.
Harry Westmore of Honeyhill had a serious accident in 1888 when he slipped and fell into the wash mill as it was revolving. He clung onto the framework and was carried round several times before he was rescued and taken home seriously injured. On the way home, the Queen passed the carriage and was so interested in the case that she sent a messenger from Osborne to the mills the next day to find out how Mr. Westmore was getting on. In January 1894, an accident killed George Prince at the West Medina cement mills.
At 69, George was the oldest employee at the mills, having worked there for nearly half a century and before the year was out. James Marchant, an engineer on the steam barge Rochester, which belonged to the Cement Mills Company, was found floating in a condensing tank. In 1896, Charles Baker, the 60-year-old master of the smack, Mary, was caught between the quay and the boat. It took 20 minutes to get him out, by which time he was dead. In December 1912, William Albert Hiscock, a labourer, was killed by a blow from a grab attached to a crane which was being used in unloading a ship. These are just a few of the many accidents that happened at the site, and others occurred nearby. In 1907, an accident occurred at the level crossing at the end of Dodner Lane as the train was slowing to a halt at the cement mills and hit a motor car.
Fortunately, the occupants had a miraculous escape. In 1925, an island driver was taken to hospital after a cart laden with cement coming over the same level crossing was hit by the train from Cowes. The horse escaped. These are a taster of stories. There are also tales of more happy events and more recent tales, including from some people who are employed at the factory. These can be found on Gift to Nature's website, where 6 pages reveal the full history of West Medina Mills, the cement works, the Cowes to Newport Railway, and how the adjacent nature reserve evolved. The cement kilns are too poor structurally to be open for public access, but I will be leading a walk around the site on May the 14th, 2019, as part of the Isle of Wight Walking Festival.
And now for Wight memories. Mystery death of a rich lady. In the second article of a new Wight Memories series, Brian Greening takes a look at the mystery death of a young woman in 1865, thanks to information uncovered by friends of Newport and Carisbrooke Cemetery. The gravestone reads, "In loving memory of William Whitehead Way, born 17th of April 1804, died 2nd of June 1891, aged 87. The River Medina has over the years claimed the lives of scores of people, both those who choose to take their own lives or those involved in tragic accidents. The mystery of the death of Edith Catherine Way was never conclusively solved. Around 1865, the area known as Little London on the west side of the river was a busy thoroughfare for those who worked on the quay and the river boats. It was an access path to the Ship and Launch Public House and the nearby boat house, and was also an alternative route to the cement works at Dodner. However, this route went across fields via a well-worn path, and at one point crossed a narrow inlet by a very primitive and narrow wooden plank bridge, prophetically known as Broken Bridge. Sadly, it was here in April 1865 that this young woman from a respectable local family lost her life. Edith was the second daughter of an eminent local businessman, Mr. William Whitehead Way, a retired grocer who lived at Sydney Lodge, a large house at Shide. She was 23 years of age and apparently a very attractive young lady who was known for her high spirits and vivacity. She had only recently returned to the island after visiting a sister in Chichester. Upon her return, it was noticed that she was somewhat depressed. On the day she died, she was seen to leave her home intending to pay some bills in Newport for her mother, and was later seen walking down Quay Street.
It was not uncommon for her to take the walk along the riverbank, and she often ended by walking up the main road returning to her home. The inquest into her death was held in the Ship and Launch. It was the practice in those days to hold inquests in buildings close to where the body was found, and it was also normal for the jury to view the body. One juror described Edith's body as looking like a beautiful marble statue. John Swetman, who gave his occupation as that of a labourer at the cement works, gave evidence that he was having a lunchtime pint of beer in the pub when he saw the young lady walk along the footpath heading for Broken Bridge. This bridge was maintained by the owner of the cement works and at the time was under repair. Over half of the handrail was missing, and the narrow plank used to walk across was only 9 inches wide. That was not helped by a groove up the middle made by heavy wheelbarrows being taken across it. The man undertaking the repairs had gone to obtain 2 new planks that would add to the bridge's width. Sweatman was alerted to a cry that a young woman was floating in the water, and he raced to the area and jumped into 2 feet of water. The deceased was floating face down, so he quickly turned her over, but even then she appeared to be dead. She was said to be still wearing her hat and gloves. The coroner had a dilemma in how to advise the jury. He had to ask them to decide whether she had fallen into the river or had she jumped in, intending to take her life. The jury deliberated for half an hour and then decided to return a verdict of accidental death. Strangely, although the young lady came from a wealthy family, there is no headstone to commemorate her grave, just her father's at Mountjoy.
And now for My View by Rebecca Roncaroni. Marmalade making induced madness. Tuesday, January the 22nd. Decide to try making marmalade. The recipe sounds easy enough. Wash, then boil whole oranges until soft, cool overnight. Piece of cake. Wednesday, January the 23rd. Cut oranges in half, scoop out pulp, discard the pips. Discard the pips. So obviously a piece of pith to do without. Except it is not. 2 kilos of Seville oranges that have been boiled for 2 hours and cooled in the water overnight are wet and slippery. Seville oranges have a gazillion of pips. They hide while you try to hang on to the slimy oranges as you scrape the pulp out or dig with a fork for the pips. I use the fork method suggested in one of my Isle of Wight cookery books, which promises pips and pith are easily removed with a fork, which is a total pith take. Firstly, I can find no pith in the soggy oranges. Secondly, it takes over 2.5 hours just to get the pips and pulp out. Thursday, January the 24th. Combine pulp, sugar and water on a low heat until sugar is dissolved. Add peel. Bring up to a rapid boil for around 10 minutes. Check for the setting point. Easy. Put 3 plates, who has saucers nowadays, into freezer for a wrinkle test. Plus, Google says the perfect setting point for marmalade is 105 degrees centigrade. So I belt and brace it with my digital thermometer. It takes ages for the sugar to dissolve. It takes ages and ages to come to any kind of boil. And it takes ages and ages and ages for the thermometer to register 100 degrees.
After 30 minutes, I'm seriously worried. 9 wrinkle tests and none has shown setting point. My thermometer must be broken. After 50 minutes and wrinkle tests, I lose my nerve completely and put it into the jars with a ladle and much hope. I order a new jam thermometer. 12 hours later, have 7 large jars of syrup with peel settling at the bottom and a nice clear orange head on the top. Research suggests it hadn't got to setting point and I have probably cooked too much at a time. The remedy is to take it out of the jars, reboil it to setting point, and then put back into re-washed and re-sterilised jars. Part of me would rather stick needles in my eyes. Another bigger part refuses to be beaten by 2 kilograms of oranges and sugar. My mood is not enhanced when I discover the big supermarkets sell basic marmalade for 27p for a pound pot. I paid £25 for 36 empty jam jars. It would have been cheaper to buy a dozen cheap ones, throw the marmalade away and use the pots, or keep the marmalade and pretend I made it. My husband helpfully points out if my labour had been costed at minimum wage, that this plus ingredients, jars, etc. works out at £28 per jar. He's lucky not to be singing falsetto in the choir. Friday, January the 24th. Prepare more jars. Empty jars of marmalade soup into preserving pan. Within minutes, it catches on the bottom of the pan. Brown flecks appear. I switch the hob off and walk away in disgust. Drink the whiskey I was planning to add. An hour later, a wrinkly skin has formed on top of the gelatinous mass in the pan. It doesn't taste too bad, and it's setting. This is a miracle, as there is no way it got to temperature, so I pot it up. Considering it has all gone so wrong, and I appear to have broken every rule in the book, the result is a qualified triumph. My husband declares bravely it is very nice. I won't be winning any shows, but secretly I'm very proud of my 7 jars of sticky orangeness. They look great. I have a kilo of Seville oranges in the freezer, waiting for when I can summon up the courage to have another go. I'll get right on to it as soon as I've mastered the comparatively simple discipline of quantum mechanics, and right after I've climbed Mount Everest and sorted out Brexit.
And now Malcolm Mime, the great debate over our festival. During the past week or so, we have all been asking each other one particular question. No, not will Brexit ever happen, but what do you think of the festival lineup? The annual announcement of the Isle of Wight festival lineup never fails to get island folk debating the quality of the acts on the bill, with conversations about it taking place in every workplace, school, coffee shop, bar, gym, shopping aisle, and of course on social media. I can't believe for one moment the announcement of the acts for Glastonbury Festival interests the people of Somerset in quite the way the Isle of Wight Festival gets us lot going, which goes to show what a central part of island life the Isle of Wight Festival has become since its rebirth in 2002. The majority of the attendees of the festival come from over the water, but that doesn't stop us islanders viewing the Isle of Wight Festival as very much ours. For many of us, the festival is more about the event itself rather than the acts, in much the same way that sailing has very little to do with how we enjoy Cows Week. Actually, forget very little. In most of our cases, the sailing has nothing whatsoever to do with Cows Week. And yet, despite the Isle of Wight Festival being more about the event than the acts, that question of the lineup is the one that is currently dominating our conversation. And just like with Brexit, there is plenty of division.
I took to Twitter the other day to take a look at what people were saying. Pierce Connolly tweeted, "If there is one thing I want to do this summer, it's go to the Isle of Wight Festival. That lineup is amazing." While Jess Judd tweeted, "Isle of Wight Festival lineup is so good." On the other side, someone calling themselves Robbo at Slop Robson has tweeted, "Disappointing when Jess Glynn is considered a big act and George Ezra, while good, is not a headliner." While County Press columnist Jake Harrison tweeted, "I feel like it's an end of an era for the Isle of Wight Festival. I just don't think I will go. Yes, it's an iconic island event, but with the same old acts again and again. So disappointing." In the words of John Lydgate, "You can please some of the people all of the time. You can please all of the people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time. Personally, I think this year's lineup looks great. There's a good mix of established and new artists, and although the three main headliners, Noel Gallagher, George Ezra and Biffy Clyro, have all played here before, the reason they have all been invited to return is because they went down so well with the crowds previously. It may be disappointing to the aforementioned Robbo that Jess Glynn is not considered a big act, but as both of her albums have reached number one, with one going triple platinum and the other gold, I think it's fair to say that she is, in fact, big. Add to those 2 number one albums, 7 number one singles, Jess Glynn is the most successful female solo artist in UK chart history. And as for George Ezra, he too has reached number one with his first 2 albums. These artists are the stars of the day, and as the Isle of Wight Festival isn't a retro festival, these are exactly the sort of acts that should be on the bill. How could anyone not want to go and watch madness? And I bet Jake Harrison has never seen the exciting talent of Jerry Cinnamon or Idols or Dance the Night Away to Fatboy Slim. Everyone has the right to an opinion, or whether or not they want to go to the festival. But should it ever go the way of Bestival, it would be sorely missed by us all. So let's embrace our festival.
And now for What's On. At Northwood House there is a jazz social on Friday the 22nd of February. Come along and enjoy the island's very own jazz supremos, Jim Thorne, John Thorne and guests for a quality evening of relaxing jazz in the ambient surroundings of Northwood House. It's £10 a person and these must be bought in advance. It includes a glass of house wine and a delicious cheese board. Doors and house bar open at 7:30 and the music starts at 8 p.m. For more information, go to www.northwoodhouse.org.
Getting close to the Brontes. After operating for 47 years with a conventional layout, the Apollo Theatre has been rearranged to allow a traverse stage, sandwiching the actors between 2 halves of the audience. Although the Apollo does not allow a complete in the round arrangement, a traverse stage has been created to allow the audience to sit facing each other with the stage in between. It has been done especially for the first play of 2019 to be staged by the Apollo Players, Bronte by Polly Teal, based on the lives and novels of the famous literary family. Whether you have read Wuthering Heights, Jane Eyre, or any of the other Bronte novels, there is much to learn about the Victorian novelist sisters, as well as their father and dissolute brother in this play. 3 young women living in a quiet, isolated existence in a lonely village on the Yorkshire moors, yet with imaginative minds, talents and ambitions which they struggle to fulfil in the patriarchal society of the 19th century, are set against the often tortured lives of their own characters and of their doomed brother Branwell. Director Di Evans took the decision to alter the layout from a conventional proscenium art-style theatre as conceived by its founder John Hancock, but she visualised the play as a piece best performed with the actors in the centre. The actors include Fiona Gwinnett, Abby Leverton, Susan Simpson, Maria Wilkinson, Peter Gale and Chris Hicks. Bronte runs from February the 8th to the 16th except the Sunday and Monday. Tickets are available from the box office.
A free members' talk will take place at Northwood House at 7:15 p.m. on Thursday. It is the first in a series of talks, demonstrations and lectures. This month's talk will be From Suffragettes and Beyond. Discover the history of women and the vote. To find out more, call 293 364.
Every Saturday from 10 a.m. until noon, the Apollo Theatre in Newport is open to the public. Drop in and have a coffee and cake tomorrow, Saturday, for only £1, before being treated to a tour of the theatre.
Police beat surgeries will be held at St Martin's Road Car Park, Wroxall, from 9:30 to 10 a.m. on Wednesday, and at Chale Stores from 10:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. also on Wednesday.
Newport Lions Club will be celebrating 40 years of serving the community in March and would like to invite any former members to a special anniversary evening. The Lions are holding a charter evening at the new Homewood Hotel Cowes on Saturday, March the 16th. Any members who would like to make contact can phone Malcolm Harding on 526928 or email malcolm.harding@talktalk.net.
Action on hearing loss will be at Porter Court Sheltered Scheme, Flitcroft Gardens, Lake, between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. on Wednesday for the monthly drop-in. Go along for advice, batteries, cleaning and retubing of NHS hearing aids. No appointment is necessary. Call 529533 for more information.
The Magic of Great Music, presented by David Shirley, is at Freshwater Memorial Hall Annex on Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. and will include the concerto format for piano, violin, clarinet, trumpet and cello. £3 to cover hire of hall and refreshments.
Shanklin and District History Society will meet on Thursday at 7:25 p.m. at the Falcon Cross Hall in Shanklin, when Jonathan Hill will give a talk on the history of the National Chest Hospital, Ventnor. Doors open at 7 p.m. for members and for visitors who will be very welcome at 7:15.
Action on hearing loss will be at Bryston Methodist Church on Tuesday between 10 a.m. and noon for its monthly drop-in. Advice, batteries, cleaning and retubing of NHS hearing aids. No appointment necessary. For information, call 529533.
The Alzheimer's Cafe takes place on Wednesday between 6 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. at Salisbury Gardens, Ventnor. This is a free, informal meeting place for people living with dementia, their families, friends, carers and those with an interest in dementia. For information, contact 220 200.
Action on hearing loss will also be at Tower House Surgery, Rink Road, Ryde, between 2 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. on Monday for the monthly drop-in. Go along for advice, batteries, cleaning and retubing of NHS hearing aids. No appointment necessary. For information, call 529533. An information point drop-in takes place for Citizens Advice Isle of Wight and Aspire Ride information point at Dover Street Ryde between 10 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. every Wednesday. During the drop-in, advisors will help you to decide the way forward, which may include making a further appointment, either face-to-face or over the phone. Open to all members of the community.
And now it's goodbye from Chris
and Brian.
February 2019, Sight for Wight. The Isle of Wight Society for the Blind. Newsletter. From Millbrook House, 137 Carisbrook Road, Newport, Isle of Wight, PO 301DD. Telephone number 522205. Email address members@iwsb.org.uk. The website is www.iwsb.org.uk.
Message from the Chairman. After 4 years, I am standing down as Chairman, so I feel a bit sad writing my last entry in the newsletter. I will be remaining as a trustee and volunteer, and I will still be around to offer help and advice if and when needed. The last 4 years have been momentous, with so many things that have occurred to help the Society move forward and modernise. From appointing Miriam Tong as our new CEO, to implementing a name change with a new logo, etc. I could list so many alterations and improvements that have happened over my tenure, but I don't want to send you to sleep. I just hope that everyone associated with the Society can see that all board and CEO decisions are made purely on what will benefit Sight for Wight and the members. I will still be organising quizzes at the Waverley pub in Carisbrook every few months. The next one is on the 7th of February, and it would be great to see some new faces supporting the Society at these evenings. I'd like to sign off by wishing you all a happy, healthy and prosperous new year. Finally, I would like to thank our dedicated staff, plus Miriam, and all our wonderful volunteers who have supported and guided me, and especially the board for their invaluable backing. Paul Rutherford, Chairman.
Happy New Year from the CEO. New Year and New Year's resolutions. At this time of year, when we've enjoyed a Christmas break and had the opportunity to reflect on the past 12-month period, it's a tradition to set New Year's resolutions. I suspect many of us may have enjoyed richer food and drink than usual over the festive period, so there may be a few amongst us who have set some personal targets for working off a surfeit of mince pies. Notwithstanding possible thoughts of healthier eating and more exercise, what I'd like to share with you are some of the Sight for Wight's resolutions for the year ahead. However, before I do that, it's satisfying to look back and consider the progress we made in 2018, delivering many new activities that members previously identified as being of interest in the 2017 survey. Having now offered or delivered many of the things that members identified as being of greatest importance, we will continue in this vein with a growing focus on activities and events held at a variety of accessible locations island-wide. 2018 was also a good year for reaching a wider audience through attending shows and getting involved in events to raise the profile of Sight for Wight. Later in this issue, you will find an article about the final fundraising event of the year, the culmination of the annual story writing competition. The awards ceremony and celebration was hosted at the Riverside Centre. The event was a great success, as evidenced by the very positive feedback we received from participants and audience members, among whom I was also delighted to see a number of members and volunteers. Of course, we will continue to review all of our activities to ensure that we respond to the needs and wishes of members, and the best way for members to ensure their voices are heard is through the quarterly members' forums held at Millbrook House. There is an open invitation to attend and or submit advance questions, ideas or suggestions for discussion. They are sociable occasions, and I thoroughly enjoy having these opportunities of welcoming members with diverse interests. The meetings are usually well attended. However, I'd love to welcome even more of you. By the time you read this, the January meeting will have taken place, and it's likely the minutes will be available as usual from our website. The other forum dates for 2019 are 17th of April, 17th of July and 16th of October. We meet between 11:30 and 1300, and the more members, supporters and guide dogs, the better.
Looking forward to later in 2019, it's now time to address the one outstanding request from our previous survey, the interest expressed by members in organised holidays and short breaks, supported with sighted guide volunteers. So, in this newsletter, you will find details of a possible short holiday in the beautiful resort of Llandudno Bay in North Wales. As always, we will require sufficient expressions of interest from both members and volunteers for the proposal to become viable. So if you were one of the many who said they would welcome such an opportunity, please take a look at the details provided later in the newsletter and contact us with an expression of interest by no later than the 11th of March to allow the time required by the holiday companies for advanced booking and planning. Some big news for 2019 is that Sight for Wight will be starting a campaign and fundraising to acquire a bespoke outreach vehicle that can be used for island-wide delivery of support and services, education and promotional work. More details on this project will follow later in the year, as work on the initiative fully takes shape. I may even have some further updates in time for the annual general meeting, scheduled for Tuesday 26th of February, to which I extend a warm welcome on behalf of the trustees. So, with another busy year ahead, I hope to see many more of our members, volunteers and supporters participating in and enjoying Sight for Wight events and activities to ensure that we remain a valued and vibrant organisation. Happy New Year to you all. Miriam Tong, Chief Executive, IWSB.
5-day holiday to Llandudno in Wales. Description of activity. Venue, the Somerset Hotel, Llandudno, Wales. Outward date, Wednesday the 16th of October 2019. Return date, Sunday 20th of October 2019. The cost, from £440 per person. This includes local pickup, coach travel, ferry fare, single room accommodation, breakfast, dinner, evening entertainment, Sight for Wight sighted guides, and insurance via Dacious Holidays. The closing date for expressions of interest, Monday the 11th of March 2019. Email members@iwsb.org.uk or call Laura on 522205. Description of activity. The Somerset Hotel enjoys an enviable seafront promenade location in the heart of Llandudno, North Wales. You can relax in the seafront garden or take a stroll to the town centre along the flat promenade. You'll also find the pier, the longest in Wales, and a wide variety of shops and cafes. There are also optional day trips available from just £10 per person. Please note, all activities are subject to demand and availability of volunteers for supporting as sighted escort guides. Personal care is not included in the role of a sighted guide. If personal care is required, then you will need to arrange to bring a carer with you. If any activity is oversubscribed, applications will be drawn from a hat. Payment will need to be made in full by the end of May 2019.
Grand Christmas Raffle 2018. Many thanks to everyone who bought tickets for the Sight for Wight Christmas Raffle 2018. The winning tickets were drawn at the story writing competition ceremony on the 17th of December. There were 26 prizes in total, with the top prize of £100 cash being won by Mr. Parkman. Congratulations to all the winners. The raffle made a total of £902.
Hello from the Finance Officer. Thank you for taking the time to read this. I'm Lisa, the Finance Officer for the charity. Having started in January 2018, it seems like I've been here 5 minutes. I can't quite believe it's now over a year since I started. Having been registered blind since the age of 16, in those days you couldn't be legally blind as a child. I believe I am now severely sight impaired. I'm not quite sure why I need a label at all, but the new label at least allows people to understand that I can see something. I was educated in mainstream school, thanks Mum, which basically set me up for life. From birth, I learned to cope in the sighted world. I never as a child felt different or specially treated. I'm sure I was, but I was oblivious to it. Through university, then on to becoming a qualified chartered accountant, then tax accountant, I honestly do not feel things could have been any different if I'd been sighted. Of course, I would have had much more physical independence through being able to drive, and probably not quite so many broken bones or scares. But would I have achieved any more, or even maybe less? My condition is called achromatopsia, which means I don't have any functioning cones. I use night vision all the time, hence I am totally colourblind. Yes, totally. Not just red/green. Hate sunlight and have a very poor acuity of vision. My eyes wobble all of the time to refract the light. In plain English, with my +8 prescription, looking through my black, white and grey world, I can read the top letter of the chart in a darkened room. In the natural sunlight, I can't see the chart. Settled on the island with 2 gorgeous primary school boys, I took the role here to make a difference. This may sound very corny, but honestly, I want other people to feel like me. Sight loss is only a hindrance if you let it be. I was staggered by the statistic that only 24% of registered blind people of working age are in employment. I love my job here, interacting with others and having a fulfilling purpose. Here at the office, I have a 34-inch monitor, with my face usually 3 inches away from the screen to read it. The rest of the staff joke it looks like I'm at the cinema and where's the popcorn? Now, losing my hearing too, everyone knows I'll have the music on in the background to mask the tinnitus. But it's my singing they object to. There is so much support out there now, physical, emotional and financial, and that's why we are here. At Sight for Wight, we can signpost help and resources from local and national sources to give you the best advice and information we can offer. We strive to offer activities to suit everyone's needs and are always open to suggestions. We are here to help you, whether it's practical or signposting. Just phone, email, or call in to one of our drop-in sessions. Sight for Wight exists entirely to help Isle of Wight people with sight loss. So use us. Lisa Holyhead, Finance Officer.
The financial results, year ended 31st of March 2018. The report of the trustees and unaudited financial statements for the year ended 31st of March 2018 has been lodged with the Charity Commission and is available from their website and our website. A presentation of the report and accounts will be made at the AGM to be held on Tuesday, 26th of February. In summary, key figures for the year ended March 2018 are given with comparative figures for the previous year, ended March 2017, given in brackets. Total income, 2018, 75,438. In brackets, 2017, 309,448 pounds. Total expenditure, 2018, 166,934 pounds. In brackets, 2017, 175,153 pounds. Net income, 2018, 95,899 pounds, and in brackets 2017, 138,892 pounds. We have achieved some savings on overheads. However, the significant drop in legacy income received during the year resulted in a net deficit, which is concerning. Donations and legacies 2018, £44,844, and in brackets in 2017, £216,192. There are various plans in progress to address this income deficit as identified in the full annual report and accounts available from our website. We have recognised the need to widen our income streams to include revenue from trust and grant funding sources, and to broaden and increase revenue from fundraising initiatives, and to build on revenue generated by Millbrook Enterprises CIC, the trading company established to support Sight for Wight. We have also relaunched a legacy giving campaign promoted in last November's newsletter, which we will continue to promote during the year ahead. If you would like to hear a fuller report, please let us know in advance if you would like to attend the AGM, scheduled for 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday, 26th of February at Millbrook House. Please arrive from 9:30 a.m. for coffee and pastries and enjoy an exhibition of our work and plans for the year ahead. Miriam Tong, CEO.
The Sight for Wight 100 Club. Thank you to our new 100 Club members who joined this quarter, and thank you for the continued support of all our members. There are still a few numbers left, so if you wish to join to have a chance of winning our monthly prize, just call 522205 or email Lisa on finance@iwsb.org.uk. The more people who join, the bigger the monthly prize. It's just £2 per month per number. Could 99, which is still available, be your lucky number? And a big congratulations to this quarter's winners, John Lockley, Madeleine Goodman and Julia Lockley.
Dress for less. I hope that you all had a lovely Christmas. We thought that January would be rather quiet at Dress for Less, but happily it has proven otherwise. Our January sale, offering some top-range clothing at rock-bottom prices, has proved a big hit. The offer to buy one and get one free has been extremely popular. In March, we will start taking in spring clothing. I look forward to seeing some lovely colour. Winter colour can be a little gloomy. Spring is an excellent time to sort out your wardrobe, and we will be very happy to help you make some money from those unwanted items. If you have any special occasions this summer, Dress for Less is the place to start looking for a lovely outfit or two. I would finally like to take this opportunity to ask if you know of anyone who would like to volunteer at Dress for Less. As we are getting busier, we would really appreciate a few extra pairs of hands. You can give as little as 3 hours per week, or more if you have availability. For more information about joining our fantastic friendly team, please either pop into the shop and see Debbie, call 523-197, or email volunteers@iwsb.org.uk. We will be very happy to see you. Debbie Durbridge, Dress for Less Manager.
New and pre-owned equipment. Site for Wight has purchased 2 new pieces of demonstration equipment for members to try. These can then be ordered in for you if you wish. The first is one that many of you may already be familiar with, a Pen Friend 2. This pen-like device allows you to record information onto self-adhesive or magnetic voice labels, which can then be attached to a wide range of items. You can store up to 1 hour of recording on a label. This can then be played back by placing the end of the device on the label. Site for Wight has not had one of these available to demo in the past, and are pleased to now be able to offer it to our members. Second is the easy-to-see mobile phone. This is not a high-tech phone. Many of our members have been asking for a simple-to-use mobile phone that is easy to charge and has big buttons. This model fits those requests and also has a torch, emergency contact button and an FM radio built in. It is an extremely good price, currently costing less than £30. The font sizes are as follows. Time display on home screen, 23-point font. Date display on home screen, 12-point font. Menu text, 14-point font. In menu text, 15-point font. Numbers when dialing, 26-point font.
A new piece of equipment that is now available is the In Your Pocket portable media device and smartphone. It is the simplest way for blind and partially sighted people to access the RNIB library and RNIB newsagent services, as well as to make phone calls. In Your Pocket is a voice-controlled phone, streaming media player and vision assistant, designed specifically for people who are blind or have low vision. Site for Wight has arranged to have a demo version in March and will have it available to try at the weekly low vision drop-in on Wednesday the 20th of March, 10 till 12 noon. We also have pre-owned equipment for sale. Some pieces have been donated to the charity for resale. while others are being sold on behalf of the current owners. Either way, they all offer members the chance to purchase useful and good quality low vision aids at a fraction of the cost of new equipment. At the time of publishing, we have the following items available: RNIB Daisy Player. This plays both Daisy CDs and normal CDs. This is the Plex Talk PTN1 version. Perfect for anyone who is making the transition to CD audiobooks from the cassette tape version. It comes with instruction book and audio CD and power supply, and that is £30. DaVinci Ultra HD Magnifier by Enhanced Vision. In excellent, hardly used condition. Comes with original box, manuals, power supply, and the remainder of the warranty, which expires end of August 2019. We also have various lights, clocks, magnifiers, and other equipment available to purchase at pre-owned prices.
Tech Spot. There are lots of video magnifiers on the market that will enlarge text, and several that will even read text back to you, but these machines tend to be either very large or very expensive. However, for those of you who use a smartphone, there is a free option in the form of the Seeing AI app. This is an app that can be purchased for free on your phone and then used to read text back to you. You simply open the app and hold the phone over the text, whether this is a label on a tin, a best before date, or the price tag on that new jumper you fancy. The camera in your phone will pick up the text and immediately read it back to you. It also has different modes that will recognise colours, read short pieces of handwriting, larger pieces of text, and give you basic information about your surroundings. So far, I have been very impressed. It's not perfect, and you do need patience and a steady hand, but for a free app, I think it is very good and well worth a try. Ruth Hollingshead.
Sight Loss Awareness Event. Laura Guljar, Eye Clinic Liaison Officer at St Mary's Hospital, will be hosting a sight loss awareness event on Saturday the 23rd of March, 10 o'clock till 4 o'clock at Camp Hill Community Sports Club, Quarry View, Newport, PO 30 5ZA. Car parking is available, entry is free, and refreshments can be purchased. Confirmed at the time of printing are Sight for Wight, Guide Dogs, Macular Society, International Glaucoma Association, Retina UK, Orcam, RNIB, NHS Falls Team, and information from Esme's Umbrella and the Nystagmus Network.
Supper Club Winter Warmers. Red lentil and carrot soup, which is dairy-free and gluten-free. Basic ingredients for 2 portions. 1 onion, peeled and finely chopped. 2 teaspoons of olive oil. 2 large garlic cloves, crushed, optional in brackets. 2 carrots, thoroughly washed and roughly diced. 85 grams red lentils. 1 gluten-free stock cubes, vegetable or chicken according to preference. a generous tablespoon of your favourite vegetable oil for cooking. Method: put the kettle on while you slice the onion. Heat the oil in a medium pan. Add the onion and gently cook for a couple of minutes while you crush the garlic and dice the carrots. Add these to the pan and cook briefly. Add in 1 litre of boiling water. Stir in the lentils and crumbled stock cube. Cover the pan and cook over a medium heat for 15 minutes until the lentils are tender. Check and adjust the seasoning to taste, adding some fresh herbs if you have them. Top tips: try adding a little ground coriander in the seasoning for a little warmth. This recipe will freeze well, so if you are cooking for one, eat half fresh and pop the other half in a plastic container and freeze.
Members' Festive Afternoon. On Thursday the 13th of December 2018, our members enjoyed a festive afternoon at Millbrook House with entertainment from the amazing Wight Sax. Mulled wine and mince pies were flowing, and everybody had an enjoyable afternoon. Thank you to everyone who came, to the volunteers who helped, and to Wight Sax for giving up their time to play for us.
St Thomas of Canterbury Catholic Primary sing for the Thursday social group. Sight for Wight was delighted when 10 pupils from St Thomas of Canterbury Catholic Primary School came along to sing for our Thursday social group. The choir were pitch perfect, and it really did help us all get in the festive mood. All the pupils were polite and friendly, and a real credit to the school. Members of the group were encouraged to join in, which they did, along with staff. A huge thank you to teachers and pupils who gave up their time to come along and sing for us.
Access to work, my experience. When I joined Sight for Wight in January 2018, I knew I could get equipment through the Access to Work scheme. I registered online, or it can be done by phone if you prefer. And within 8 days, someone came out and chatted to me at work to see what they could offer that would make my work life easier and more efficient. I have been registered blind since birth, but only started losing my hearing in the last 10 years. I thought I knew everything that was available, but was very pleased and surprised to find that things had indeed moved on. For example, digital magnifiers now, if required, can reverse colours on the image, which for me takes all the glare away. Once the assessment was done, the report came back and everything was approved. This was all achieved within 3 weeks, even on the Isle of Wight. However, please remember, you must register as soon as you start work. If you do not register within 5 weeks, you will miss the deadline. It says 6 weeks, but it takes time to register, so try to do it within 5 to be safe. The process of actually obtaining the equipment was not as seamless as it could have been. I was initially told that Sight for Wight must buy the goods, then be reimbursed by Access to Work. It would not cost the charity a single penny, but they had to come up with the cash up front. For more than £5,000 of equipment, this was a lot of money for the charity to come up with in terms of maintaining current cash flow and without dipping into reserves. I rang Access to Work and explained the situation. They said this was not a problem. Access to Work could pay the supplier direct.
However, a couple of emails with the correct paperwork later, the money appeared in Sight for Wight's bank account, not with the supplier. I rang and asked what had happened. The Access to Work office said I'd been given the wrong information and that they cannot pay the supplier directly, they must pay the employer. Interestingly, in the meantime, my sister, who works for another charity, had had the opposite experience. Her supplier had been paid directly, as she too had identified what have happened. But the point is, there are options if your employer cannot fund the expense up front. Finally, once the money had materialised, within 48 hours, the equipment arrived. I had to have training to use it, and again this was organised within a week. I now have a movie-sized screen, which everyone is jealous of, a digital magnifier which reduces all glare, and for my hearing, they suggested a Roger pen and Roger mic. I was, I admit, completely shocked when I first used it. I had no idea how bad my hearing had become. Now I can hear voices clearly again, and the numerous, "Sorry, didn't catch that. Could you repeat that? No, sorry, didn't get it," have, at work at least, greatly reduced. I also applied for travel to work help within the Access to Work scheme. Because it's difficult as well as dangerous reaching my home from the bus stop on a road with no pavement, this element was assessed and approved very quickly. Now I make a monthly claim for taxis I use from the bus stop, and I'm paid directly. Just a couple of points of caution. Access to Work are in some cases now asking for a contribution from the claimant, not the employer, for portable equipment that can be used outside of work. For example, for a Roger pen, they are now saying the equipment will be used outside of work and therefore the person must contribute 2/7 of the cost. However, they made no charge to me. Secondly, Access to Work are asking for a contribution to travel costs. For example, if you get a taxi which costs £8, and if you were fully sighted, for example, you could have got a bus for £2, then they will only pay £6. In my case, as I had a bus pass, they waived any charge. All in all, the end result is that I have what I need to help me at work. Lisa Hollyhead, Finance Officer.
Raffle prize donation request. The Sight for Wight local fundraising committee manage the collection of prizes and small new items for sale at our fundraising events throughout the year. We are always grateful for the donation of such items from anyone who is able to offer new, good quality and in-date items where appropriate. Items such as unwanted gifts, for example toiletries, games, puzzles, books, wine, etc. are much appreciated. If you are able to donate such items, please pop them into Millbrook House with contact details so that we can extend thanks. Or if you have difficulty getting into this location, a representative can arrange to pick them up when in your local vicinity. Thank you. Sight for Wight, Local Fundraising Committee.
My Guide training opportunities for 2019. Following on from successful My Guide training sessions in 2018, we have now arranged the training dates for 2019, which are as follows: Wednesday, 27th of March, Thursday, 23rd of May, Monday, 24th of June, Thursday, 18th of July, Monday, 23rd of September, Tuesday, 15th of October, and Tuesday, 3rd of December. Training will take place at Millbrook House. Level 1 runs in the morning, with Level 2 following in the afternoon. Level 1 covers the training required to become a community sighted guide, allowing you to feel confident to offer assistance to visually impaired people, both out in the community as well as with your role as a Sight for Wight sighted guide. Level 2 builds on the training from Level 1 and teaches you the skills and confidence required to become a My Guide. Once completed, you will be able to volunteer around 2 to 3 hours a week to work with a visually impaired person to work towards agreed goals, such as working out a local bus route and becoming an independent traveller. The aim of My Guide is to promote independence, increase confidence and reduce isolation. If you are interested in the training at either Level 1 or 2, please contact Laura Jasper to register your interest on 522205 or email members at iwsb.org.uk.
Short Story Writing Competition 2018. On Monday the 17th of December at the Riverside Centre, Newport, Sight for Wight held its third annual short story competition award ceremony. Over 150 people attended. As people walked in, they were entertained by melodic choir, who sang beautifully and helped everyone get into the festive spirit. Huxley Magician also wowed the audience with his incredible magic and dad joke humour. Prizes were presented to 30 winning authors, budding authors from as far as Los Angeles, California and Dublin, Ireland, entered, so it really did have an international flavour. Prizes included cinema vouchers, book vouchers, meals out and Isle of Wight attractions. First prize in the under 12 category was awarded to Freddie Hayler for his story Gertrude's First Christmas. Freddie won an Amazon tablet, courtesy of Wight Computers, and his story was recorded by television and radio presenter Kate Weston. Freddie has very kindly written an article in this newsletter about his experience of writing for the competition.
Anya Powerscott Edgerton won the 12 to 17 category with her story, The Carol of the M5, and read by It Ain't Half Hot Mum actor and Isle of Wight resident Melvin Hayes. Anya won a £50 voucher courtesy of French Connection. Christopher Sullivan won a special highly commended award for his story Lyle, which was recorded by Edana Minghella. Christopher was given a £30 voucher courtesy of Sainsbury's. Comedian Joe Brand read the winning story in the 18+ category for a story written by Fred Canavan entitled Ta-da! Fred won a Red Funnel Car Ferry voucher and was also presented with the R.C. Bridgestock Trophy by the Isle of Wight Sheriff Joya Minghella Giddens. The evening was a great success and I would like to thank everyone who came along and supported the evening, and particular thanks to staff, volunteers, Huxley and Melodic Choir, our story writing entrants and our sponsors who very generously donated such fantastic prizes. £1,600 was raised. Chris Kane, Marketing, Communications and Fundraising Manager.
My story writing experience. I'm Freddie Hayler, winner of the Sight for Wight story Under 12s. The task was set to write a story based on the magic of Christmas, and my winning entry was called Gertrude's First Christmas, a story about my chicken, named obviously Gertrude. Right is a photo of me and Gertrude, the star of the story. It is a story about her flying to the North Pole, as commanded by Angel Gabriel, who is allergic to feathers, to fly in place of Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer to deliver presents. When we were at the award ceremony, my mind was swimming with anxiety. Will I win? Will I be a runner-up? Will I not win anything whatsoever? I was trembling like a fly next to a spider. When all 3 runners-up had been announced, I knew it was game over. I had not won anything. I looked at my mum with a smile and said, "Well, that's that. I haven't won anything." But my mum said, "We will stay and see who the winner is." So I sat there, feeling utterly miserable and extremely gutted. Then they read out an extract from the winning story. And they read out a part of my story. I was totally thrilled. I went up to collect my prize, and when I got back home, I found out it was an iPad. It was a great experience and gave me a lot of confidence. I was very proud of myself because, before, I was a bit of a guy like, "Ugh, I can't do that. That is kind of hard. No, I can't do it." So now I believe in myself a lot more than I used to. Also, I have never entered a competition which has included writing or the like, so winning my first competition is a big thing for me to achieve. Freddie Hayler.
Volunteer News Round. We are pleased to welcome 8 new volunteers to the Society who will be supporting members in various areas such as talking news, dress for less, minibus escorts and a sighted guide for the Striders group. Sadly, since the last edition, we have said goodbye to 2 volunteers, one of whom has supported the Society in her volunteer role for 9 years and is looking forward to her well-earned retirement. We bid Maureen farewell after her years of dedication and support to the Society with a lovely bouquet, which she much appreciated and kindly gave her permission for her photograph to be published. Maureen also shared that she had loved every minute of volunteering with the Society, where she began as a home visitor and latterly as reception support, where she kept a lively and friendly pace with her fun sense of humour and willingness to help wherever was needed. Our previous administrator, Tim, together with Maureen, were a double act to behold. We have volunteer vacancies in various roles. For example, minibus escort, minibus drivers, home visitors, sighted guides for our monthly walks, dress for less, retail volunteers and lead volunteers, and support with fundraising and events ambassadors and welcome hosts throughout the summer months of 2019. We continue to recruit for My Guide volunteers, which is short-term work on a weekly basis, working closely with members who would like support with increasing their confidence in mobilising agreed distances outside of their home, usually to attend regular social events or go for a walk and coffee, etc. Full training will be provided. We have a waiting list of members who would like this service. Dates for your diary. 12th March, 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. at Millbrook House. 11th of June, volunteer party. If you have any ideas for a theme, please let either Michelle or Susan know. 10th of September, 4:30 to 6:30 at Millbrook House. 10th of December, 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. at Millbrook House. And a big thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all our volunteers for the many hours of support they've given the Society over the last year, the services and support we offer our members, and the willingness to always offer that little bit extra, whether it be bringing in raffle prizes, dressing as pirates, encouraging an eco-friendly environment, bringing in a Cyberman prop, or bringing in furry and slippery animals to one of our social groups. Your willingness to make the whole volunteer service professional, friendly and fun is inspiring. Michelle Taylor, Volunteers Manager.
2019 Training Opportunities for Volunteers. Sighted Guide Training for Volunteers. My Guide Level 1. It is recommended that all volunteers participate in this training to gain some understanding of and insight into sight loss, as well as learning the essentials of sighted guide training. Refresher training every 2 years is recommended. Please see details of the My Guide Level 1 training sessions on page 21. Dates 27th of March, 23rd of May, 24th of June, 18th of July, 23rd of September, 15th of October and 3rd of December. Times 9:15 till 12:30.
Sight for Wight Professional Boundaries and Safeguarding Training. Date Tuesday the 8th of October 2019. Time 9:15 to 12:30. The course aims to give an understanding of the importance, principles and practical application of professional boundaries and safeguarding, and is tailored specifically for Sight for Wight. Recommended for all volunteers who work closely with members, with participation in refresher courses every 2 years.
Sight for Wight Health and Safety Awareness Training. Date Tuesday, 8th of October 2019. Time 13:15 to 16:30. This course aims to give an understanding of the importance and principles of health and safety in the workplace, and will be tailored specifically to the needs of Sight for Wight. Recommended for any volunteer in the role of ambassador or involved in events or activities at external venues when no staff member is present.
Sight for Wight Food Hygiene Awareness Training. Date Tuesday the 5th of November 2019. Time 9:15 till 12:30. The course aims to give an understanding of the importance and principles of food hygiene in the workplace, and will be tailored specifically to the needs of Sight for Wight. Recommended for any volunteer in the role of welcome host.
Sight for Wight Emergency Aid Training. Date Tuesday the 5th of November 2019. Time 1300 to 16:30. The course aims to give you the confidence to deal with an emergency situation and is tailored specifically to the needs of Sight for Wight. Recommended for all volunteers who work closely with members, especially in the absence of staff members, with participation in refresher courses every 2 years.
For all training opportunities, on successful completion of any training programme, you will receive a Sight for Wight certificate. Refreshments are provided for all programmes. Please contact the Volunteers Manager to register your interest.
What's on at Sight for Wight? Ride Swimming Group. Our swimming group meets every Tuesday evening from 8 p.m. till 8:45 p.m. at the Waterside Pool in Ryde. They have exclusive use of the pool during this session. The group is open to any visually impaired person who is a keen swimmer or who just enjoys being in the water. The pool's lifeguards are in attendance during the session. Pre-registering with the society is essential, otherwise you may be refused admittance.
Wednesday coffee morning. We hold a coffee morning each week on a Wednesday at Millbrook House from 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. All are welcome to join us for a cup of tea or coffee and cake. The cost is £1 and the group is open to all, not just members. On the first Wednesday of each month, we are joined by the Macular Society for their monthly meet-up.
Wednesday, low vision drop-in. Every Wednesday between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. we hold a low vision drop-in session. This coincides with the coffee morning and allows you to view and try the low vision equipment we have at the Society without the need for an appointment. If this time is not suitable for you, then you're welcome to call the Society to make an appointment to view our low vision equipment.
The Wednesday Social Group. Our Wednesday Social Group meets every fortnight from 2 p.m. at Millbrook House. The group has different speakers who come to give talks on a variety of subjects. These have ranged from singers to ghost talks. After the talk, the group chat over a cup of tea or a coffee before going home. This group is open to non-members, but please register your interest in advance.
Thursday Social Group. The Thursday Social Group meets every week from 10:30 a.m. till 2 p.m. at Millbrook House, where they engage with other visually impaired people. They socialise and enjoy lunch together. In the afternoon, the group welcome volunteers who come in to read from various books about local history, general fiction, or, a more popular choice, comedy. This group is open to non-members, but please register your interest in advance.
Monthly book group. Sight for Wight hold a book group on the second Wednesday of each month at Lord Louis Library in Newport. The group runs from 2 p.m. for about an hour. We discuss the last month's book and then hand out the book for the next month. Books are available on USB stick or CD. Refreshments are provided and guide dogs are welcome. There's no charge to join the book group. If you would like more information, please call Laura Jasper on 522205 or email members@iwsb.org.uk.
Strollers. Strollers meet on the second Tuesday of the month. They go for gentle strolls, enjoying the countryside or coastal views. This is followed by lunch at a pub or restaurant. The group is open to all visually impaired people who like a leisurely walk of about a mile.
Striders. Striders meet on the last Friday of every month. They walk on different routes around the island and then finish off with lunch at a local pub or restaurant. This group is open to all visually impaired people who like longer walks in the countryside.
And bowling. The bowling group meets once a month at LA Bowl in Ryde. The cost is £3.95 for one game and shoe hire. This is followed by refreshments and a chat at the bar. Please note there is no transport for this group.
Golf. The golfers meet once a month on a Sunday morning at Westridge Golf Club, Ryde. The group go onto the driving ranges and out onto the course. An instructor is available to help out beginners. The golf session lasts around an hour and is followed by refreshments and a chat in the cafe. If you are interested in joining any of the activities, please contact the Society for more information on 522205 or email members at iwsb.org.uk. Transport may be available to some of the groups.
Site for Wight Coffee Mornings. We hold a number of coffee mornings around the Isle of Wight. A volunteer or member of staff will be there to offer information and support, and they can also bring along equipment and low vision aids from the Society on request. Come along and join us for a social chat and refreshments. Tuesday. The Knighton Coffee Morning is held on the first Tuesday of each month at the Knighton Post Office, 10 a.m. until 11:45 a.m. Refreshments can be purchased from the Post Office Cafe. The Freshwater Coffee Morning is held on the last Tuesday of each month at the End of the Line Cafe, 10:30 a.m. until 11:45 a.m. Refreshments can be purchased from the cafe. The Bembridge Coffee Morning is held on the last Tuesday of each month at the Cloisters in Bembridge, 10:15 until 11:45 a.m. A cup of tea or coffee and biscuits is £1.
Wednesday. We hold a weekly coffee morning on Wednesday at Millbrook House from 10 a.m. till 11:30 a.m. A cup of tea or coffee and a slice of cake is £1.
Thursday. The God's Hill Coffee Morning is held on the second Thursday of each month at the Old Smithy Coffee Shop, 10:30 till 11:45 a.m. Refreshments can be purchased from the coffee shop.
Pottery, a 2-hour session using the wheel. Venue, Jubilee Stores, Studios, Town Quay, Newport, Isle of Wight. Monday, 29th of April 2019. Start time 10:30 a.m. for approximately 2 hours. Number of places 5. Course cost £25 per person. Closing date for applications Friday the 5th of April 2019. Description of activity. Following on from a very successful pottery morning in 2018, this 2-hour session will be focusing on using the potter's wheel. You do not need to have attended the previous session to take part. Numbers are restricted to ensure everyone has sole use of the wheel. The price covers everything required, including clay, materials, and use of the kiln fire. To register your interest, please email members at iwsb.org.uk or call Laura on 522205. Please note, all activities are subject to demand and availability of volunteers for supporting as cited escort guides. If any activity is oversubscribed, applications will be drawn from a hat and a waiting list will be made for priority selection on a repeat visit.
Isle of Wight Donkey Sanctuary. The venue is the Isle of Wight Donkey Sanctuary at St John's Road, Wroxall, and it's held on Friday the 3rd of May 2019. We'll meet at 10:30 a.m. at the Donkey Sanctuary. There's no charge for admission, but a charge of £2 is made if the minibus is required. There's also a coffee and gift shop. The closing date for applications is Friday the 12th of April 2019. Transport may be available depending on location. The Isle of Wight Donkey Sanctuary has over 100 donkeys and ponies, all of whom are either rescued or had been abandoned. They are given a forever home in 55 acres of countryside in the Wroxall Valley, where they get first-class care and welfare. Come and join us for a visit to the sanctuary, as well as a stop in the coffee shop and gift shop. To register your interest, please email Laura at members@iwsb.org.uk or call 522205.
Save the date. Dates for your diary. Portable media device and smartphone in your pocket demonstration at the Wednesday coffee morning on Wednesday the 20th of March, 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. Sight loss awareness event, Saturday the 23rd of March, 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. at Camp Hill Community Sports Club, hosted by Laura Gouljar, St Mary's Hospital, ECLO. More details on page 14. Sight for Wight Low Vision Day on Wednesday the 22nd of May. Members' Summer Party on Thursday the 20th of June. More details to follow. To register your interest or for more information, please call 522205 or email members@iwsb.org.uk.
2019 Members Forum dates. Members Forums will be held on the following dates. Wednesday, 17th of April, 11:30 a.m. till 1 p.m. Wednesday, 17th of July, 11:30 a.m. till 1 p.m. And Wednesday, the 16th of October, 11:30 a.m. till 1 p.m. To be added to the email list for Members Forum updates, including agenda, location, etc., please email members@iwsb.org.uk.
This is the BBC.
This is In Touch, the magazine programme for people like me who are blind or partially sighted. I'm Peter Wight. Thanks for downloading this week's edition. Good evening. Tonight, blind people take to the streets to try to save their resource centre and losing your sight while pretending you're not.
Excuse me, what platform is this? Let people off the train first, please. Excuse me, is this going to Liverpool? Are you getting on? It's all right, give me a chance.
Welcome to passengers joining us at Stafford. This is the 1620 service to London Euston.
What?
Buffet is now
London?
open and is located in coach.
You all right?
I think I'm on the wrong train.
Too busy looking at your phone, no doubt.
We hear from the playwright who's used her own journey from mainstream to blind school in a drama airing on Radio 4 next week. Mandy Redvers-Rowe is that playwright and our guest today. That was Nina trying to run away from her blind school. How close to your situation was that scene? Are you Nina?
Well, I'm not Nina, but I did at the age of 17 go to Chorleywood School for girls with little or no sight. I don't remember. What's the title? And I was there for 3 years.
Did you ever run away?
No. But I did get through my mobility. I think it took me about a year to get through all my mobility tests. And so I did start to travel on my own on the trains from Chorleywood to Bognor Regis, where I was brought up. So, but no, I mean, all of us have had very terrifying experiences, no doubt, on train stations and things. And,
indeed.
So I imagined that.
We'll come back to fear a bit later on. Much more to come from Mandy. But first, for visually impaired customers, there's no real substitute for hands-on experience. I mean, how else can you judge whether a piece of equipment is going to be right for you? But in recent years, there's been something of a trend for closing down regional resource centres where people could get to grips with equipment such as watches, magnifiers, canes, etc. The latest to go is a resource centre in Bristol, which, as well as stocking kit, hosts Braille and IT classes, but now the RNIB is selling it to the guide dogs for the Blind Association. Visually impaired people from Bristol and the surrounding areas are furious at this decision, and last Tuesday they held a demonstration outside the building to vent their anger. Our reporter Tom Walker was there and was given a tour of the building by Paul Sullivan, one of the organisers.
RNIB, keep your promise! RNIB, keep your...
So this then is the IT suite here. I'll just turn the lights on and I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 computers. Over here there's a printer and even a fan to keep people cool in the summer. But I guess, Paul, once RNIB move out of this place at the end of May, this facility won't be available.
Absolutely not. Like every other space in this building, it will be converted into a training centre for guide dogs, and we will lose access to it. And this is where the Braille lessons take place.
Should we go and have a look?
Okay.
Here we go. It's on that side. Oh, sorry. Go on. You go on ahead with your guide dog. And this is it. This is the room where people learn Braille. How well attended are the Braille classes?
They, I think, go up and down in popularity, but for those who need Braille, the severely visually impaired, they are a really valued resource because it's very hard to learn Braille on your own.
RNIB, keep your promise! RNIB, keep your promise!
There are some 20, maybe 25 visually impaired people now gathered outside 10 Stillhouse Lane, protesting against RNIB's closure of the resource centre and other facilities. With me now is Joe Healy, who's a volunteer here at Stillhouse Lane. Joe, what do you do here?
I help run the basketry class on a Tuesday.
And what will happen when it closes?
I think these people will be more isolated, stuck on their own. RNIB encourages people to use technology to use their services, but these people cannot use that technology.
Because as well as being a volunteer, you're also a service user, aren't you?
I am indeed, yes, and I can use RNIB services, but I often have to help these elderly people to even use the telephone service because it has a menu, and they are not happy to use that telephone menu. They don't have the confidence.
RNIB!
Home be trusted!
Now, one man who was very vocal on the demonstration is Barrington Chambers. And Barrington, you obviously feel very strongly about what's happening.
So if I need a long cane, no, I can't get one. If I need a talking microwave, I can't get one. If I need a level indicator, something that every blind person uses in their cup to make a hot drink, they told us that they're not going to close the resource centre. It's been closed now. RNIB is leaving Bristol.
RNIB! Lies and cheats! RNIB!
Are RNIB really guilty of lying to you, though?
We have been lied to, no doubt about it, and kept in the dark for over a year now, 14 months or more, and we have tried every way possible to get RNIB to engage with us honestly and openly, and all they've done is prevaricate and obfuscate and keep us in the dark.
Most people now have gone inside to shelter from the cold, but still outside is Anila Wood, who chairs Bristol and District VI Voice. Anila, RNIB's financial difficulties are well known, so surely closing a building like this just makes common sense.
Yeah, I suppose from their point of view, they probably think it does make sense, but from our point of view, it's the only building that there is in Bristol that provides a service. RNIB took the building on with the understanding that they would provide those local services, and now it seems that that's not relevant to them, and it feels like they've turned their back on us.
I can see if you're in dire financial circumstances, you need to cut costs. And RNIB have been doing that for a long number of years now. They sold the box at the Albert Hall, they sold the hotels they ran. They've been selling the family silver for quite a long time now.
I'll open it up so you can ask questions in just a sec, but a couple of sort of brief points from me.
That's the voice of Colin Whitbourne, who's one of the RNIB's managers here in Bristol. And somewhat unexpectedly, Colin and his team have decided to hold a question and answer session with the protesters.
He said we will find the place, and that's different.
Well, the protest and the Q&A session are over now, but with me still here is Sheila Austin, who's a member of Bristol and District VI Voice.
Yeah, it seems to me that the situation we're in now has been unbelievably unnecessary, because if they had actually had respect for the blind of Bristol in the first place, and actually had worked out right from the beginning about the idea of asking what the visually impaired in Bristol needed. It doesn't seem to have any sense that the blind are stakeholders in the RNIB. Somehow we're to be done unto.
We were formed with one aim and one aim only, and that is to hold RNIB to their promise to give us a new community space that's as good, if not better, than this particular building that we're losing. If at the end of the day that proves to be absolutely impossible, we would like to sit down and talk to them about possibly funding community services through other channels.
So the voices of Bristol there. Tom Walker's with me in the studio. What's the situation, Tom, about other RNIB resource centres?
Well, yes, Peter, 2 resource centres have closed recently, in Liverpool and now in Bristol. There are, however, 5 remaining centres still open in London, Stoke-on-Trent, Edinburgh, Camelon in Scotland and in Belfast.
Well, after the meeting there, you had the chance to talk in more detail with Colin Whitbourne of the RNIB.
Yes, Colin is RNIB's head of network operations in the south. I started by putting it to him that once the centre has closed, people in Bristol will no longer have access to local services.
There will be some premises where staff will work from. There will be community activities. We will work with our partner organisations, and they're not just within the sight loss sector, but other places where people can meet, hold events, do their activities, and we'll make sure that they're accessible, people know where they are and all the rest of it. So this is one building, and I know there's loads of passion here, I really do get that, but we've got to be able to make sure that people from all across Bristol can have the same services, the same experience, and be able to build their confidence and all the rest of it that the people here have.
You've heard the passion today, and there's been some very strong words. RNIB have been accused of lying, of misleading visually impaired people. Are those protesters right to make those allegations?
I think that's a bit strong. They're making their point, and I get that, I really do. Yes, we're stuck with budgets. Yes, we don't want to overcommit. Of course we need to do that, but we'll find a solution. I am confident we will get somewhere out of this.
They've lost faith with RNIB, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. Trying to redevelop trust is hard. We've got to clearly set out what we want to do, and we've got to make sure that we do what we say we're going to do. This again comes back and plays to what we're trying to do as an organisation, is to not have little hot spots of activity around the country where people receive a really good service, but to get that really good service out into the community so that we reach more and more people. People living in remoter places aren't able necessarily to get to the centre somewhere where we've got those lovely resource centres, so how can we get that out into the community? That's the challenge for us.
The people who use this facility, however, say, I've met people as a result of coming to a centre like this. I'm doing things that I wouldn't have otherwise done. And isn't the danger with sending services like this out into the community that visually impaired people are going to become more isolated?
I don't actually agree with that, Tom. If you think about the place that my colleague was talking about just up the road here at Wellmill Farm, they've got lots of activities going on there. So it's not just for people with sight loss, they're people of all abilities and doing different things. So my view is that blind and partially sighted people would go out and meet friends whether they're sighted or whether they're blind.
Isn't the reality, though, Colin, that once you move out of here fully at the end of May, if you haven't found an alternative, then the people of Bristol can say goodbye to a resource centre like this?
What we're trying to do is to find alternative ways of doing this. We may not have the same as the space behind me here at the moment. That's the reality of it.
Colin Whitbourne of the RNIB ending Tom Walker's report. Mandy Redvers-Rowe is our studio guest today. Just before we come to the main reason for you being here, Mandy, what about buying special equipment? How much do you use local resource centres? And if you don't, how do you know what you're buying and how to choose it?
Yeah, well, I have used resource centres, not as much as I'd like to, because mainly I'm in work, or have been in work. And I think when you're newly blind, and a lot of people lose their sight as older people and start to really rely on those resource centres. I've got a particular friend who used the Liverpool Resource Centre, and he'd only lost his sight about 5 years ago. He was devastated by that loss, but I think when you're newly blind, to meet other blind people is really important.
Right, well, you very neatly brought us back to recent loss of sight and to Blind School, your play, which is about a teenage girl who's losing her sight and has reluctantly gone to a special school for blind and partially sighted pupils. What comes across, not surprisingly, I guess, is how scared she is. Were you scared?
Oh, yes. Scared of other blind people before I'd met them, scared of my future. And I'd never really thought about it much. I think when you're sighted and you don't think too much about your future, you just go forward. But suddenly when everything changes, you panic about everything.
And I remember actually our blind schools was full of blind people actually herring about the place,
Yes.
running down the corridors, all that sort of thing. Now, if you're someone who's losing your sight, that must come as a terrifying.
It was a shock when because I was finding it hard to walk at a normal speed because I was so scared of everything, losing my sight. I think the big problem was I was still trying to look. I sort of hadn't got to the point where I stopped looking, and you've got much more confidence.
And
then.
this ties in, doesn't it? I think with one of the clips you wanted us to play. Just introduce that for us.
Yes, so one of the things I find really hard now, I really can't see at all, and I find it really hard now, is running, just running straight forward in front of you with no guide or anything. And so this clip's really exploring sports, sort of running tracks.
Places, girls! So we line up side by side, but usually run one at a time so we don't bump into each other.
What, just run?
Of course. If you go off the track, you only get onto the grass.
Laura!
Yep!
Laura!
See ya.
Nina!
Yes, miss?
Nina! Are you okay, Nina? There's nothing in front of you. Just go for it.
Sorry, I've got a bit of a dodgy ankle. Should probably rest it.
And I've forgotten my PE kit as well. It's one of those excuses, isn't it? Of course, it isn't just the fear of losing her sight, is it, with Nina? She feels, I think, that this is an alien environment, you know, suddenly being in this school where almost everyone can see less than she can.
Yeah, it's alien in so many ways, isn't it? First of all, for her, she went to a standard comprehensive, like I had, and went home every night, and now she's gone to a residential, quite strange, posh place. Obviously, Nina is not me, and Laura, it's a completely fictional story, but I've based it in a world that I knew.
And Laura is Nina's friend.
Yeah.
She's totally blind,
Yeah.
of course, and they compare notes. And it's interesting, although they start by being really very, very friendly to her, rather friendlier than I think we were to people who came in, but a lot of the tensions come out in this argument between Nina, played by Ellie Woolwork, and her friend Laura, played by Robin Kinnersley, both visually impaired. And this is not just Nina's feeling of how strange it is, but Laura's resentment that Nina regards them as strange.
You don't want to be like us.
Did I say that?
You didn't have to. You can't stand the idea of being like me and Ruby and all the other blind girls.
That's not it.
It's alright for us to be blind and use stupid canes and read Braille. But Nina, no, she's too cool.
No.
Yeah, you can't better hang around with us. Every chance you get, you're off ringing your mates and your boyfriend from home, telling them all how pathetic we are.
You're being an idiot.
All right, I'm an idiot now as well as blind. Thing is, you haven't really thought this through, have you?
What?
You can't cling on to your sight forever. Sooner or later, it'll be gone, and then where will you be?
Shut up.
That's pretty tough stuff. You've said that you weren't Nina, but I just wonder, how much did you write this to get your experience out of your system?
Probably more than I realised.
I mean, are some of the things Nina says the things you'd like to have said at the time but didn't?
Oh gosh, it's so hard to remember. Teenage life anyway, you're all up and down emotionally, aren't you? But those feelings, I think, are genuine feelings on both sides.
What about the acting? I mean, Ellie, who played Nina, of course, has already been on the In Touch programme earlier this year because she was in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And Laura is Robin Kinnersley.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting comparison with those two, isn't there? There was a bit of a switch.
All the actors are just brilliant. I was so impressed by all of them, and obviously I had nothing to do with auditioning or anything. That was done by Sharon, the director, Sharon Sefton. Well, the interesting thing is Ellie is completely blind and Robin is somebody losing her sight, so they played almost opposite roles, and they both found that quite fascinating because they were saying things that, almost opposite to how they felt, but both really enjoyed that, I think.
How did they react to that? Because, as you say, it had been the blind girl actually playing the partially sighted part and the other way around.
Yeah. Well, they found it really interesting, and I think Robin said when she'd read it, Robin and Jill, who plays a blind teacher, she's also partially sighted and losing sight. And both of them said to me when they first read the script, they felt very emotional. And
This is Gillian Dean, who played Miss Munro, and I thought she was fantastic. She was a teacher down the ages, kindly but with a hint of menace. That's what I thought. She caught it absolutely right. Just one more thing, it was done on location. Can you just explain about some of the things that you had to do to make that work?
Yeah, that was brilliant. So obviously Chorleywood no longer exists, and although Chorleywood was a girls' school, we recorded at Worcester, which was the boys' school, which is now the mixed school. And I think because I don't know the dynamics of a mixed blind school, when we wrote this, we kept it as an all-girls school. It's a fiction, so although that's not true nowadays, we felt that was okay. But yeah, so we went on to Worcester and we recorded it live, and some of the students from Worcester in it, and I think we've got the deputy head teachers playing a part. He's on a guard on the train. They were very generous. They really looked after us there.
And the sound was great. I mean, with the running, you could hear the running shoes, and their legs, almost hear their legs rubbing together.
Yeah. I mean, the sound people did that. So there's a team of sound technicians, one person recording and one person doing all the action, and she stood next to the actors as they spoke, and then she'd take off. It's amazing to be part of it.
So
very cold when we recorded that scene, actually.
Right, well, people can judge for themselves, because the play goes out next Tuesday, the 5th of February at 2:15. So Mandy, thank you very much for joining us. That's it for now, although there will be an extended podcast this week in which Mandy will continue discussing issues raised by the play. Tom Walker will also be there, our reporter today, and producer Lee Kumitat will shed her cloak of anonymity to join in. You can download the podcast from our website. You can also make your comments on our action line for 24 hours after the programme on 0800 044 044, or email in touch at bbc.co.uk. But from me, Peter Wight, producer Lee Kumitat, and the team, goodbye.
I remember school now.
That feels like a long time ago.
How long were you there, actually,
Yeah,
Mandy?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. 80 to 83.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was either 81 or 82 when we interviewed you. I think.
Yeah.
Well, we've just finished recording In Touch, and as we often do after the programme, we do sit round and have a chat. Now, we were talking today about the whole business of going from mainstream school to blind school, and Mandy Redvers Rowe has written a play about that. Mandy's still with us. Tom Walker is our reporter today, and Lee Kumitat has come out from what I described as the cloak of anonymity and is here.
Pete.
And
Hi.
I should say that both, as well as Mandy, Tom and I went to kind of the equivalent of Chorleywood, which was Worcester College, which then became New College, where this was all recorded.
Yeah.
So the one we don't know anything about is Lee Kumitat, and who is normally so silent. So what was your education?
I started at a school for the blind in Australia, but I was a day pupil, and I was one of those pupils kind of bussed in out of area. So I had a very long journey each day. But my mother refused to let me board. She basically said, this child has to be brought up with her brothers, and I can't leave her at a boarding school. So I went there for 3 years, and then when I was 8, I was integrated into a mainstream school setting, and I didn't really have anything to do with other visually impaired kids until I was about 14, when my mother basically dragged me along to a camp, a music camp, a Braille music camp, and said, if you really hate it, just ring me. Tell them to call me and tell them you're sick, and I'll come and pick you up. My mother still says that to me today, by the way. And
from In Touch?
Yeah. Call me from Manchester and I'll come and pick you up. And anyway, so I went to this camp, and I was enjoying the music and I was enjoying the scene, but I couldn't work out why nobody was talking to me until the penny dropped, and I'd arrived on the Sunday, and I don't think it was until the Wednesday that the penny dropped that actually these people weren't speaking to me because they didn't know I was there.
Because they were blind kids.
They were all blind kids, and I was blind.
If you don't speak, we don't know you're there.
That's right. And I was so used to being the one that people approached.
Yeah.
And having to react, but not actually having to put myself out there and say, "Hi guys, I'm Lee." And once I worked that out, I mean, it sounds ridiculous.
But the interesting, you were in the exact reverse position to Nina, of course, in a way, as a blind person who wasn't used to other blind people.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And I think of it with embarrassment now, of course, because, you know, I've obviously got lots of a wonderful community of visually impaired people that I know. So it does make me feel slightly I'm blushing, actually.
Aww. Tom, you went to Worcester and you listened to the play. What did you think?
It reminded me of all the horrors and pleasures and everything else that I associate with my education. I went to Worcester College for the Blind for an assessment weekend, which I suspect you did as well, Peter.
Yep.
We went on the Friday and we finished Sunday lunchtime, and I thought, this is madness. Who else would do this other than Worcester College for the Blind? I did feel like I was stepping back 30 or 40 years in time the minute I went into the school. The words the teachers use, the accents, the voices, the rules and everything else.
Did they speak Latin? I've heard tales of people
they
speaking
did.
Latin.
Yeah, they did. If you were walking down the corridor and you didn't know who was there, you said "Quis,"
and the response was "Ego," which was
when I first did that, I thought it was just a kid who couldn't sound his R's, and it was somebody called Chris. I'm not Chris.
Did they do that at Chorley Wood, Mandy?
Not Latin, no. But what did shock me is we still had afternoon tea at 4 o'clock. Yes,
well,
with cakes and tea. Yes.
We did at Worcester. We had the 4 o'clock tea. I mean, there was something like 7 or 8 opportunities during the course of the day to eat.
Eat far too much,
yes. And which is why maybe 1 or 2 of our number were a little bit rotund by the end of their time at Worcester.
And well, Bristol, you see, where I went before Worcester was a day school. And what you used to notice there was how fat the kids from day school were, because they got fed by their mums when they got home, and we were all starving, completely starving.
Yeah.
One of the themes in this that we touched on in the programme, Mandy, is fear. And what it's not so much that Nina is frightened of going of losing her sight, although she is frightened of that, understandably, but she's frightened of other blind people, isn't she?
Yeah, well, she's never met them before, and her only experience of blind people's through the media, and we all know the media's not that great about showing positive images of blind people being ordinary. I think maybe it's getting better now, but still I think I certainly, before I went to blind school, I didn't know any blind people. I had a very strange view that the girls would be, I don't know, sort of somehow other, just not what I would expect, but I was completely wrong.
Yes, because you described in the play, or you had Nina being surprised that these girls listened to pop music and talked about boys.
Yeah. And went to concerts.
Yes, I know.
But you see, you're being quite brave in a way, because, and so are we, because we're talking about fear as if it's natural. And I mean, a lot of us really, I will say this when I'm sitting here, but it makes you really angry to think that people are frightened of blindness, and because particularly for people who've not been able to see, and you ought to see, and you make this point in the play, we don't really we say we do, but we don't really understand why people would be so frightened.
Yeah, and they don't seem to be able to express it either. What their fear is, or they can't imagine it. They can't imagine a world without images and a world without light. And so the best thing they can do is do that old thing of saying, is it black? And I sort of empathise with that to some extent. But just as, they must know kind of intellectually that, their experience isn't the same as someone else's. They must know that ours is all different from one another.
So, Tom, as somebody partially sighted, have you got a bit of a foot in both camps?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, my sight has remained fairly constant, mercifully. I think as I get older, the fact.
What do you mean mercifully? You'd love to be blind. Come on,
do you know what I mean?
It'd be easier.
I suppose you're frightened of it, are you?
I'm totally blind in my left eye, so I kind of have a sort of 20% sort of realisation. Maybe I don't know. But
do you ever shut your right eye? Just to find out?
No, because I
what
don't
it's
think
like?
I don't think there's an equivalence really, because I've always got the luxury of being able to open it.
Yeah.
So I don't go down. I don't approve of all these sim specs and blindfolds and all that sort of stuff. I do think, and I have thought about this, if my sight did go completely, I have kind of thought that the thing I would probably try and do is get out almost straight away and just face it. Because the idea of being stuck in the house, the idea of not being able to go out and make packages for In Touch would fill me horror.
You'd still have a job here.
do you know, Peter, that is so lovely.
Weren't we teasing you yesterday, Tom, about
Always.
helping the blind? Because we all caught the tram together.
We did.
And Tom got on the tram and sort of squired Peter and I, who were both totally blind, to seats on the tram, didn't you?
I have to kind of confess that my guiding technique with Peter was completely appalling.
Well, we're not talking about your technique.
No,
here.
but you know.
We're discussing the fact that Peter and I both said to you, "Oh, yeah, you like helping the blind, Tom. It makes you feel superior because you've got a bit of sight."
No, do you know what? You know, these days the idea of feeling superior is a bit alien.
In a way, this is something you didn't really explore, Mandy, and I suppose it was difficult in a way because Nina was losing her sight. But had she had relatively stable sight, she would have been a commodity.
Yes.
Because people who could see,
Yeah.
I mean, the clever thing to do as a totally blind person was to have a friend with a bit of sight.
Yeah.
Because they could drag you around with them.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. I had a boyfriend, Ty, for some time, who was partially sighted, and it used to just frustrate me so badly that he wouldn't ask for help. And I mean, it was pathological with him, worse than any other stereotypical person who won't ask for help. He just never did. And also there were the things that he would miss, like cleaning the work surfaces. I think he hasn't cleaned this. And of course he thought he had, but he just couldn't see and didn't know to use his hands to feel the surface to make sure it was clean. So I'm not sure about that, Peter.
Oh, well, we did do it. I know we did it because if you had, if you wanted to get out into Worcester and go to the pub and all that sort of thing, and your confidence wasn't that high, then having somebody who could see was just, a big advantage.
Well, one of the things that we were used for quite a lot as some people who had a certain amount of residual
like mules,
sight.
Really, weren't you?
Yeah. One of the things we were used for was you'd get a group of what we would call dims, in other words, totally blind people playing football. They would kick the ball into the horse field and, of course, would have no chance of finding it. So you would be regularly collared by somebody. Can you go and find a ball for us, please? What's it worth? But no.
Did Charlie Wood have a term for totally blind people,
See,
Mandy?
I can't remember, but I was that person
You've
who could
hidden
still...
it. You've hidden it from yourself.
You've blocked it. I was that person who could see more than a lot of people at the time. I remember we went to Milton Keynes shopping centre once, and we were in a big crocodile with me at the front, and we were looking for a shop or something, and I stopped what I thought was my dog's having a dream under the table there. Sally. I stopped what I thought was a person and asked them the way, and then didn't answer me, and I was getting really annoyed with them, thinking they're so rude. And it was a shop dummy.
We've all done it.
Well, I've got my favourite one of those is we were hitchhiking, and four of us were totally blind, and one of us could see a little bit. Ian, I think he's still about if you're listening.
Ian McRae.
No, it's a guy called Ian Hopkins,
oh,
and
right,
we were coming back from the pub, and we had to go to the youth hostel, and we hadn't got a clue where we were going. And Ian we were in Cornwall near the coast, and Ian was saying, it's all right, I'm following a light. Turned out this light was a lighthouse. So we very nearly fell over a cliff.
Hope you could swim.
That's one big light. He must have needed that light.
Well, it wasn't big to him. It was just a point of light.
How much could he see?
And not very much.
Didn't he notice it was quite high up?
Well, as we discovered yesterday, the light I could see wasn't an oncoming tram.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't.
It was. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't the tram.
You got us all excited and then let us down.
No, I let you down
actually
so
a tram.
terribly. I know. I should have used my monocular.
But what did you want people really to take from this, Mandy? I mean, okay, you wrote it, it's a story and so forth, but what I'm wondering because this thing about fear it comes up, people use it to raise money for their charities. It's exploited.
That is talked about at the end.
We talk a lot about it on the programme. I just wondered what you wanted people to take from it.
Oh gosh, when I'm writing, I'm not sure I think hugely about the audience. I try to think about what I'm trying to get at. So really what I'm trying to do as a writer is tell stories from a disabled perspective that are not told. So people get to know some of our culture, I suppose, some of the things that and try to show how interesting our lives are, because often when we are written into pieces on the media and into plays or into storylines, it's very generic. It's very two-dimensional. It's always about sight loss in a very basic way, in a tragic way. And I was trying to say, yes, it's difficult, but it's not tragic, and try to show lots of perspectives on that. But
my terror is that the people listening to this podcast have probably discovered a bit too much about our culture. These are the things that don't make it onto the programme.
I was just thinking that's a brilliant programme topic. Is there such a thing as blindness culture?
Well,
I think there is.
Shall we do it?
You'll see it. Watch out for it.
Yep.
Thank you.
It's been lovely being with three dims. I've really enjoyed it.
I'm so loving the idea of being a dim.
Yes,
I'm really
dim. That's lovely.
Well, they used to play a game.
What does it stand for, dim?
They used to play a game. Well, dim just as in a light.
No light.
No light.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
And an old friend of this.
I see or I don't see.
An old friend of this programme called Dave Kent used to tell the story that in Wales, he went to school in Bridgend, and they used to play a game called Spin the Dim. And you would take a blind person out somewhere and you'd spin him round, and then you'd wait and see how long it took him to get back to where
At Worcester, we had the Dim League even, which was the football league for totally blind players, the Dim League, and it was officially sanctioned.
Wow.
So that's another In Touch programme, which we
Excellent.
may hear later.
I've got a programme to go and edit.
Okay, so you go and do that.
Okay.
Lee, Tom, Mandy, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Dim.
Scaffolding news. In the Kams area, current scaffolds are up at 93 High Street, Cowes. It's a scaffold up within hoarding until the 24th of February. The White Hart Inn in Dover Road, East Cowes, on the 28th of January till the 28th of February. And 92 Park Road, Cowes, from the 28th of January till the 3rd of February. Current hoardings at 93 High Street, Cowes, and current skips at 11 Stanley Road, Cowes, from the 4th of February to the 10th of February.
And in the Newport area, current scaffolds, Cash Recycle Shop, that's at 140 High Street, Newport, and that's up until the 1st of February. Seafood Corner Unit 1, 32 High Street, Newport, 14th of January to the 3rd of February. Exchange House, St Cross Lane, Newport, that's up until the 7th of February. Lloyd's Bank, St Thomas's Square, Newport, is up until the 26th of February. Prince of Wales, 36 South Street, Newport, is up until the 4th of February. The Wheatsheaf Hotel, St Thomas's Square, Newport, is up until the 27th of February. And current skips, skip in conjunction with Stapler's Works at Fairmount Drive, Newport, is there until the 11th of February.
In Ryde, St Helens and Bembridge, current scaffolds in 148 to 149 High Street, Ryde, until the 10th of February. Gardener's Cottage, Upper Green Road, St Helens, until the 3rd of February. King Lud 2, Esplanade, Ryde, until the 3rd of February. 91 to 92 High Street, Ryde, until the 25th of March. Coburg's Nightclub, Union Street, Ryde, until the 20th of February. And current skips at 2 Spithead Close, Seaview, until the 5th of February. Carita, Stanley Road, Seaview until the 4th of February. 13 Surrey Street Ride until the 10th of February. 18 St John's Wood Road Ride until the 13th of February. Pending mobile crane in the bus lay-by west of Fishbourne Lane, Kite Hill, Wootton until the 26th of February. Building materials and hoarding at the car park, Brooks Road, Bembridge until the 8th of February.
And the Sandown and Shanklin area, current scaffolds. Premier Inn, that's at 1 to 9 Esplanade, Sandown until the 15th of February. The Toymaster, 103 High Street, Sandown until the 4th of February. Sandringham Hotel, Esplanade, Sandown, that finished yesterday actually, 31st of January. Wilmar, Dorkin and Vermaper Cottages, Church Street, Newchurch, that's up until the 16th of March. Brian Cook Furnishers, 77 High Street, Shanklin, that actually finished yesterday, 31st of January. Trouville Hotel, 10 to 16 Esplanade, Sandown until the 4th of February. The Ocean Hotel, Townhouses, High Street, Sandown until the 18th of February. Boots, the Chemist, 15 High Street, Sandown until yesterday. That was up until yesterday. Co-op Food Store, 63, 67 High Street, Sandown until the 18th of February. Current skips at the Co-op Store, 63, 67 High Street, Sandown until the 24th of February. And current hoardings, Premier Inn, 1 to 9 Esplanade, Sandown until the 7th of February. And at the junction of St Boniface Road, Arthur's Hill, Shanklin, till the 1st of May.
In the Ventnor area, there are current scaffolds at the corner of Trinity Road and Madeira Road, Ventnor, and at 1 Boniface Road and into Trinity Road, Ventnor, until the 1st of February.
And in the West Wight area, current scaffolds, Salty's Restaurant, Key Street, Yarmouth. That finished yesterday, 31st of January, and Holdings, Key Street, Yarmouth until the 3rd of February. Vehicle crossings under construction. 51 Nelson Road, Newport. Forest Park Recycling Centre, Forest Road, Newport. Holiday Cottage, Appleford Lane, Whitwell. And at New Wolverton Farm, Doctors Lane, Shorewell.